PowerPoint, and then Kim, I think we can go ahead and get started. As soon as I'm able to do this, let's see.
I just want to start, I guess for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim Wallish. I'm the Deputy City Manager and Economic Development Director for the city. And just a second. And I just want to start by saying how great it is to see everyone, even like this, and to be back together. And it's really my pleasure to welcome the SAG members and the members of the community to this meeting. And I just feel like, given everything that we've experienced the last 4 months in the life of our community and nation, that it's important that I acknowledge this context that has changed since we last met, which was in January. I know I've been in the Emergency Operations Center, and I first want to, sorry.
I'm so sorry, Kim. One thing I forgot to do since we were scrambling here, I wanted to let the interpreters real quick introduce themselves.
Okay,
so
sorry.
they have a chance. I'm sorry. And just to note again, hi all, I'm Dave Java with Plan to Place. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started with the meeting here, I'm going to ask Juan and Chimera to introduce themselves. There are Vietnamese and Spanish interpreters for this meeting, and they'll introduce themselves and let folks know that might have dialed in and need that support, how to access that information. So Juan, I'll start with you. If you can please introduce yourself.
Xin chào quý vị, tôi tên là Xuân và tôi là thông dịch viên tiếng Việt cho buổi họp này. Nếu bạn muốn nghe buổi họp này bằng tiếng Việt, xin vui lòng nhấn vào nút phiên dịch nằm ở dưới của màn hình của bạn và chọn tiếng Trung Quốc. Vì Zoom không có chức năng để chọn tiếng Việt, vì vậy xin quý vị chọn tiếng Trung Quốc nếu bạn cần thông dịch viên tiếng Việt. Cảm ơn quý vị thông cảm cho trường hợp này. Nếu bạn muốn chia sẻ, nhận xét công khai, xin vui lòng giơ tay bằng cách chọn chức năng giơ cao tay của mình ở dưới màn hình hoặc nhấn số sao 9 trên điện thoại của bạn và bạn có thể nói nhận xét của mình bằng ngôn ngữ tiếng Việt. Và tôi sẽ dịch các bình luận và chia sẻ của bạn bằng tiếng Anh cho các thành viên trong buổi họp này.
Thank you so much, Juan. And Jamara, would you like to do the same for the Spanish-speaking folks? Jamara, are you with us? Okay, I believe she's actually doing it through the Spanish interpretation channel, which is great. So with that, sorry again, Kim.
Oh, no problem.
Over to you. Thank you so much.
No problem. And I really appreciate the interpretation services this evening. I just felt like rather than just diving in like we normally did, I just really wanted to acknowledge the kind of the changed context of the last several months since we last met in January. I know I've been part of the city's emergency operations, and it's really important to acknowledge that the COVID pandemic has shined a bright light on the inequities in our community with our low-income residents and our communities of color being impacted disproportionately by COVID, by unemployment, and by financial stress. And I also want to acknowledge the horrific murder of George Floyd and other unarmed Black people by police, and the deep pain and anger and questioning that has caused. And I know it's also heightened awareness of systemic racism, of how communities of color are viewed and marginalized, and how they've been oppressed on many levels. And I know I'll be bringing this heightened awareness and commitment to change into my work, and as I'm sure many of you will also. I also want to acknowledge that with the COVID-19, lots of things changed suddenly at City Hall. I think you can imagine in March with very little notice, We had to fully activate the city's emergency response operation, close public facilities, figure out how to keep the essential services running. And unfortunately, that meant that we had to cancel public meetings, including the SAG meeting that was planned for April. And I just want you to know our staff team pivoted, I hate that word, it's overused, changed course very rapidly and really wanted to share the important information they had been developing about development capacity, about parks, about transportation. So they recorded the information in videos and posted that online and completed an online survey and posted that online. Our intent was to keep the information flowing and to continue to solicit input even though we couldn't meet in person. I want to acknowledge that we received feedback from some of you that it was not comfortable to receive such important information by video, and we couldn't really discuss it and ask and answer questions. So this evening, we are going to review the highlights of that content, and we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion. So I just want to recognize that meeting virtually is not ideal. But I ask for your patience and we welcome suggestions for improvement. We're really committed to making this as effective as possible because it's how we're going to need to do public meetings, at least for the foreseeable future. So thank you for your patience and sense of adventure as we're now operating in this new environment. Last but not least, two things. I want to share the happy news for those of you that know Lori Severino, which is everybody on the SAG, our Civic Engagement and Program Manager, that she welcomed her new son, Landon Curtis Severino, into the world in April. So shout out to Lori if by any chance she's watching. And while Lori is out on maternity leave, I really want to thank Tim Rude and Jose Ruano from planning, along with our consultants from Plan to Place and Ramey, for stepping in to manage the civic engagement work. And you'll hear more about plans for civic engagement the second half of the year. And then last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Norma Camacho, who I see is here with us this evening. I want to thank her for her service with the Water District and for taking the work of this group and her membership in it so seriously from day one. So just from the bottom of our hearts, Norma, you've been an inspiration to me, to Nancy, I know to many others, as a public servant, as a woman public servant, and we're deeply appreciative of the mark you've left on San Jose and send you off with the warmest of wishes. So thank you, Norma, and we can all clap virtually.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it says a lot about you that you're here tonight, so thank you. All right, so with that, what I'd like to do is I just want to kind of make sure for everybody who's here that we know who the city team is, who's working on this project and who's here tonight. So we have the slides here, and I don't know if you can see most of them. If you can just like raise your hand. So we have Nancy Klein from the Office of Economic Development, and then we have the full planning team. So Rosalind Huey, who's the director, Robert Manford, the deputy director, Tim Rude, who's the planning division manager, John Tu, who's the planner 4, Jose Ruano, who's planner 2, and James Hahn, who's planner 2. Jose and James have been integral to this work. Nicole Burnham, deputy director from Parks, is here. From DOT, we have Jessica Zank, the deputy director, Ramses Madhu, division manager, and Eric Eidlin, the station planning manager. And our team from Housing, Jackie Morales-Ferran, the director, and Kristen Clements, the Housing Division Manager. And of course, you know Dave, our friendly facilitator, and thank you to Sahela Sikand, who's done so much work, and also to Diana Benitez, who's here with Matt Ramey, representing Ramey and Associates. So welcome everybody to the meeting, and thanks to everybody who are making this possible today.
Great, thank you so much, Kim. And I see that Kathy is already practicing her raise your hand, which is awesome. I was just about to give a quick tutorial on that. Kathy, do you have a quick question before we get started? Yep, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I do. Are we going to be taking roll?
You know, that's a fantastic question. I was thinking about doing that, but considering there's 38 folks that are on the group. I thought that would take up a huge chunk of time. So I have my staff that are quickly looking through the list and identifying who is actually here with us, and noting that. Unless you all really would like to take a roll, we can do that as well. Whatever, I'm open to suggestions. I was hoping just to save that time if we can. Would you like to take roll, Kathy?
I would. I'd like to know what SOG members are participating right now.
Okay. Let's do that then. Let's see. If I don't have the full list in front of me, unfortunately, but we can go down the list of who we see here in the participant window. I think that might be the easiest, unless, Suhaila, do you have the list that you can pull up quickly and just run down the list for me?
I do.
Great. So can you just go down the list, and you all should have the ability to unmute yourselves, so you can just let us know you're here and we'll note who is and who isn't. So you're on, Suhaila.
Do we have Bill Burke here? I'm going to take that as a no. Bill Souders? Sorry.
Here.
Thank you. Cecilia Martin? Charlie Foss?
Edwin Tan for Charlie Foss.
Thank you. Dan Mountsier?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Apologies if I mispronounce names. David Meyer?
Yes, I am here.
Edward Som? Ernst Calais?
Here.
Greg Peralta? Harvey Darnell?
Here.
Jason Baker?
I'm here.
Gene Cohen?
Present.
Jeffrey Buchanan?
Here.
Jim Goddard?
Here.
Jody Starberg?
I believe we had someone sitting in for Jody.
Erica
Suhaila.
Carr, is that correct?
That's right. You can keep going then.
Jonathan Martinez? Kathy Sutherland?
Here.
Kelly Doyle?
Here.
Kevin Chrisman?
From, excuse me, from Gardner, we should be saying who we're with, because I know some of the faces and names, but I want to re-familiarize myself with who you're with. Right?
Apologies. I don't have that list directly in front of me right now. Perhaps if you say when you're here, who you're with, if that's okay.
Yep.
So going down the list again, Kiyomi Yamamoto.
Here with the Law Foundation.
Thank you. Laura Winter.
Present and representing the St. Leo's neighborhood.
Madison Nugent. Maria Noel Fernandez.
Here with Silicon Valley Rising.
Marla Weinstein. Melissa Cerezo.
Here with VTA.
Melissa Ricciardo.
Here with Caltrain.
Michelle Azevedo. Michelle Huttonoff.
Here with Spur.
Miguel Marquez.
Glenn Williams is here as an alternate for Miguel from the county of Santa Clara.
Norma Camacho.
Here with Belly Water.
Rev Ray.
Here with Pat.
Sarah Cardona. Sarah McDermott. Shiloh Ballard. Stephen McMahon. Walter Wilson.
This is Reginald Swilly. I've been substituting for him for the whole process, and we are with Minority Business Consortium. And thank you, Kim, for that introduction and acknowledging the stuff that's going on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Reginald. And last but not least, Whitney Morris.
I'm Sandra Weber with Plant 51. I should be on there in lieu of Bill Burke.
Thank you.
Okay, that was great. Great to hear your voices and see your faces. And thank you for that reminder, Kevin. Definitely before each of you speak, like we would typically do at the SOG meetings, if you could let us know your name and your affiliation, that would be great. We've also gotten the practice, if you all are up for it, to actually change your name with your affiliation after your name. It's really easy to do on the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you hover over your own video and go to the three dots, you could rename yourself that way as well. But thank you for that reminder again. And again, great to see you all. So we have a very packed agenda here tonight. We're really excited to share some updates with you, have a great collaborative discussion with you about where we are in the process and where we're headed. As we typically do, we'll start with meeting minutes and get your approval there. We'll go through the SOG agreements and a little bit more about how we're going to facilitate the meeting now that we're in this virtual reality. We'll give some updates, as you all saw on the videos that were posted to the website, update you on where we are in the process now and where we're headed, based on the change that we're all facing these days with COVID-19. Have a discussion around that, and then we really want to spend some time going over the information that was shared and the survey results that was paired with that. We've tabulated all the results, and we'd like to present that back to you and give you all a chance to give us some additional feedback there, and then we'll save a good chunk of time as well for public comment. And I see nearly 80 members of the public that have logged on with us here today, and I greatly appreciate you all taking the time to be on with us. I see a couple hands raised. If there's any burning questions, we could take that now. Marla, did you have a question you'd like to share? You should be able to unmute yourself. Oh.
I apologize. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here representing Google.
Welcome, Marla. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, I see your hand raised as well. Was that previous
Yeah,
raising?
I was raising my hand to make a motion to approve the minutes to the January meeting.
You are on it, Kevin, as usual. Thank you. You jumped right ahead of me. There it is. So do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Who was that seconded?
Edward Sound with Shipna.
Edward, thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you all. So efficient. Okay, on we go. So these are the SOG agreements. And by the way, folks, if I'm looking away from the camera, it's not that I'm losing attention, but I have a couple screens up just trying to keep track of you all. So I look away. That's why I'm looking away. But I'm now looking at the SOG agreements. You all have seen this before. And we've done a great job of being respectful of each other, understanding there's multiple perspectives, really creating that safe space so that we can all communicate with each other efficiently, and putting ourselves in each other's shoes. Again, just recognizing that we're coming at this from multiple perspectives. We're all looking toward the same general goal. And then ultimately, like I always like to say, have fun. It's so great to see you all. I think we've created a real solid bond here. We hope to continue that forward through this process, even though we haven't seen each other in a bit. So in terms of how we're going to facilitate discussion, we've already started to get some really good practice with that. Typically, I would mute all the mics, but it seems like you all have been doing a pretty good job of muting yourselves. And the way that we'll do the discussion when we get to those points is we'll do the hand raise function like you've been doing. Bottom corner of your participant window, either a more area where you can have a drop down to touch that hand raise function, or it'll actually be a little blue hand down there, and that'll pop up a hand next to your name, letting me know that you would like to make a comment or you have a question, and then I'll ask you to unmute yourself and do that at that point. If you've called in as well, you could do the same function through the *9 feature. In terms of public engagement as well, we will have a good chunk of time for public comment, as I mentioned earlier. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of timing for that and the rules that apply there, but very similar to how the council meetings are run. We also just want to note that we've accepted electronic comments, both that are emailed to us and or through the project website, that will be part of the public record. And this meeting is being recorded, which we forgot to mention earlier, and this meeting and the summary will be posted to the project website as well. So keep an eye out for that. And then in terms of the public comment, run exactly the same way. It looks like we got some good practice around that as well. We're using the hand raise feature that will alert me that you have a comment or question during that time, and I'll go ahead and unmute you and allow you the allotted time to provide your comment. And so it looks like it should be fairly simple that way. Again, if you did call in, you can do the dial a *9 and that'll pop up that same hand to let me know. And then lastly, for those that are watching this through the public channel, we just wanted to flash the meeting ID information on the screen. I'm realizing though, unfortunately, I'll get the right ID information on here. This is what we had previously. Actually, can I ask Jennifer, can you unmute yourself and just let folks know the new webinar ID just verbally so they know what to log into?
Yes, the new webinar ID is, one second here. Oops, sorry about that, 1 second.
We could come back to this as well, Jennifer, if it's not handy.
I actually have it right here. So it's 910-628-77222.
Great, thank you so much. So if you go to zoom.us and enter that number, you'll be able to also participate during the public comment section, and you could still use this 1-800 number to access that as well. So with that, I am now going to hand it over to Tim Root and Nancy Klein with city staff to take us through the first part of the presentation. So Tim, you are on.
Great. Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you, SOG members. It's great to see you all, albeit virtually. So if you can go ahead to the next slide. So I wanted, first of all, to give you an update on the anticipated timelines for the upcoming work products for both Google's Downtown West project and its public review and the Diridon Station Area Plan update. So my teams are actually working on both of those projects. And the next sort of big milestone we're anticipating is August 25th, which is the target date for the Downtown West draft environmental impact report, as well as a document called the Downtown West Design Standards and Guidelines. And this is essentially the rule book that Google is proposing to guide the design of its development because the project is so large and will probably be built out over many decades. The usual process where all the buildings are completely designed and go through the approval process as complete building designs is proposed to be a different process wherein the council would approve the design standards and guidelines document as well as the associated submittal documents, development agreement. But the DWDSG is really a key piece of the story of what the Downtown West development will look and feel and act like. It also relates to the environmental impact report in that some of the design standards could help to mitigate environmental impact. So the team felt it was very important for those to be issued together for public review, and we've been working very hard as staff with Google and everyone's consultants to review a couple different drafts of the environmental impact report, as well as a draft of the design standards and guidelines. So the public version of all of those, again, anticipated to be released on August 25th. We are also planning an initial Planning Commission study session on September 9th. This will cover both the Downtown West project and the DSAP. Since we'll have a couple of new commissioners coming online, it'll be a good opportunity to begin the process of orienting them. And then your next meeting, we're currently looking at dates in September. We wanted to give the SOG and the community a little time to review these fairly lengthy and technical documents, the draft environmental impact report and the design standards and guidelines. So we're planning a September SOG meeting. And I should note that all of the SOG meetings we're anticipating are not shown on this slide. So don't think that September is going to be the only one. I'll note the other ones as we get to them in the timeline. We also have a council study session scheduled on September 24th. So that was originally scheduled in April. And so that will cover both Downtown West and the Diridon Station Area Plan. The city planning department will be hosting some community meetings in September and October on the DSAP, as well as, well, both sort of open community meetings and stakeholder meetings, which we've already done a couple of. Downtown West will also have at least one, if not two, city-hosted community meetings also in September and October. And the end of the 45-day comment period on the draft EIR for the Downtown West project would then fall in October 9th. And that is also October is when we are now looking to issue a draft of the updated Diridon Station area plan. So in terms of SOG meetings throughout the rest of this year, as I mentioned, we're anticipating one in September. We're also anticipating one more in 2020 toward the end of the year, probably after the draft DSEP document has been issued. So looking at maybe November or early December. And then we'll also have another SOG meeting early in 2021. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So looking into the first part of 2021, in February, we're anticipating that the city would finalize the EIR resolution and staff report. We'd have planning commission hearing on the Downtown West project and the DSAP in March, and if possible, also a city council first reading in March, and a second reading and final adoption in April. So it's taken a lot of work to kind of rejigger our work process to be working remotely, and of course the community engagement is the hardest part to do remotely. So we're doing everything we can to try to have as many meetings as we can with as many folks as we can, and to also be ready in the event that the county public health guidance changes and that we are able to conduct in-person meetings again. So if you could go to the next one, please.
Sure. Harvey, just real quick, Harvey, I see your hand is raised. Is it okay if we go through a couple more slides and then we'll have a SOG discussion? Did you have a real quick question?
It's a question. Where is the DSAP EIR being considered?
Yeah, so the DSAP will have an environmental evaluation. One second, please. It won't necessarily be an EIR. It might be an addendum to the downtown strategy EIR. So the technical analysis is proceeding on that. And the environmental document, whatever form it takes, will be made available for public review. Even though that's not technically required for an addendum.
Thank you.
That's always been the city's practice. So I won't go through everything on this slide, but I just wanted to start by saying that the work that staff and the consultants have been doing since your last meeting is really designed to build on and take into account all the community engagement that's been going on for this area over the many years, including the meetings we had in person last fall, the small group community meetings with the SOG, and all the previous engagement that went into the Strong Neighborhood Initiative plans and the 2014 DSAP, the downtown design guidelines that apply to this area, which the council adopted in 2019. And then, of course, the 2 years of SOG process and the Diridon Community Engagement Report. So these are all great input and statements of community values and priorities that we're bringing into the work as we proceed to get more into the details. And so this is just kind of some of the flavor of the input that we got throughout all of those processes and what we did with it. So you can see on the right, we got comments like, this is an opportunity to increase heights and plan to maximize housing as the best use. So we looked at, analyzed the potential development capacity increases in the area, taking into account the council's direction on airport heights, as well as city policies for jobs housing balance. And then, we also got questions about what's the city's plan for the rest of the area beyond the Google project? How much capacity, how many residential units, what will the traffic look like? So that's work that we did in putting together the estimated development build-out capacity high-end estimate that we're using in the modeling and analysis as the DSAP work proceeds. And then some of the comments in red on the right, we got comments like activate 24/7, have eyes on the street, recognize the balance of uses, not just office. So the land use concept approach that we put out for discussion actually is more mixed use than the 2014 DSAP. It puts homes and offices closer together in more areas than the 2014 DSAP did, which allows for a potential increase in walking or biking or other low impact ways to travel that are more sustainable and have lower carbon emissions. We also, have heard a lot about building heights, including, preferences stated for shorter heights near creeks and existing neighborhoods for compatibility. So we've looked at that. We know not everyone is satisfied with the initial proposal, and we're continuing to work on that. And we also looked at opportunities to expand the boundary. So we got comments, some folks wanted to expand the DSAP boundary all the way to Highway 87 and 280. Other folks saw an opportunity, and we just got a letter about this a day or two ago from the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy, seeing an opportunity, sorry about my dog, an opportunity to improve Los Gatos and Guadalupe River Park trail connections. So, we've made some initial proposals. We're certainly going to be meeting and talking and thinking more about all of the input that we're getting as we continue to work toward getting a draft together that we can put out for community discussion. And so getting back to engagement, so we're extending the contracts with our 7 wonderful community partner agencies. They've been helping to get the word out about our virtual engagement opportunities already. And they were originally slated, of course, to be hosting a whole slew of in-person community events in March and April to kind of kick off our spring round of engagement. And of course, unfortunately, due to public health orders, we haven't been able to hold those in-person meetings, but we are working with all of those organizations to extend their contracts to January to allow for community partner hosted events as we're able to conduct those. And of course, we're also working with them to get information out about the online activities that are available and to help try to extend our reach into underrepresented populations and communities. So going forward, Jose Ruano, our DSAP project manager, and other staff involved in the DSAP, including some from DOT, parks, are planning to be available at least 1 hour a week between them to answer questions on the Diridon Station Area Plan. So we'll get those scheduled and get you notified. It'll probably be different times, different weeks to try to make more opportunities for people to check in. And that'll just be kind of an informal chat room or virtual office hours. And then as far as community meetings, so again, as far as we now know, we are planning to hold meetings online because that's what's available to us. And the EOC has a whole branch that's been working to build the city's capacity to conduct these meetings. As you may have seen from the technical difficulties, we had seemingly everything that could go wrong on Zoom went wrong in the half hour before this meeting. So really want to thank our planning support team who's been working hard to get this meeting going on a new link and get everybody in who needs to be in, and also the interpreters who are making all of that possible. There are a lot of folks working behind the scenes on these virtual meetings. So again, we're planning to host community meetings on DSAP and Downtown West in September and October. And then also wanted to mention that Google is planning to post 6 recorded videos about their project, and they have actually already posted the first one. So those are available on their project website, which is g.co/San Jose. And there's a lot of content on there, but if you scroll down to explore updates, you will find their latest update posted in June, which has a link to a YouTube video that tells how they used the content of the community engagement that they heard in their urban design for the project. And so there'll be, I think, planning 5 more of those coming through the rest of the summer. And then again, Google hosted community meetings online or, if possible, in person, also anticipated in September and October. And that was my last slide. So I think now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy to discuss the development agreement.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank
Welcome,
you very
Nancy.
much. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tim. I just wanted to say how wonderful it is to get to be with you this evening. It feels like a little bit of opening up for us to all be able to go forward and work on something other than strictly COVID activities. So thank you, and wonderful to be together. Wanted to give you a brief update on the development of the development agreement. Over the past 6 months, as Tim just shared with you, staff has been working on a number of critical documents in addition to the EIR, the DSG, the Design Standards and Guidelines, as Tim mentioned, subsequent transportation, infrastructure, all of those documents working through the development program. So that's what we've been trying to do as a team, understand what's intended and what impacts what in terms of the overall design, circulation, all of that, to determine how we value the project overall. First, you really have to have a grasp of the scenarios of what it is or could be. And then that can lead us along the path to deliver strategies for how the benefits might be delivered to the community. So as that all takes shape, we are looking together to analyze the value of the city's legislative actions. And if you don't mind, the next slide. Thank you. It's a reminder that since December 4th of 2018, in the Memorandum of Understanding, it was clear that there will be a development agreement and community benefits established by sharing a portion of the value created through the city's legislative actions. And that the MOU also calls for the city to be aware of project feasibility. So we haven't been together for quite some time, so I just wanted to go back to that most fundamental of documents. And if you can go on to the next slide. And here is a list of most of, anyway, the legislative acts that we're thinking through. So an increase in development capacity, and certainly embedded in that is the one engine inoperable or higher heights that we've worked on together, general plan and zoning changes that may take place, street vacations that may arise, parking reductions, which can accomplish many goals, but a certain amount of parking is needed, and thinking through how much that is. As mentioned, the design standards and guidelines will become very important. And the DSAP, the Dearborn Station Area Plan Amendment itself, as you know, working through what's the environmental approach and what does the DSAP itself include. And then the development per se of the development agreement. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just refresh the community benefit priorities from City Council remain affordable housing, the displacement prevention and community stabilization, including the preservation and protection of homes, and jobs and education. We know that the SOG has additional priorities. We aren't ignoring those, just referencing the 3 priority issues or areas from City Council. David, if you'll, thank you. And then when we're looking at fulfilling project requirements here, we're really thinking about how to do what the project is going to do. And we asked some questions, which many of you who have participated in the survey responded to these questions, like in affordable housing, the mix and a composition of the affordable housing, the number of parking spaces and in which configuration and over what timing. And then in infrastructure, what infrastructure is desired and what is required. And sometimes those are a little bit different in order to support the overall development capacity. Understanding these things takes a good bit of work. And the way these actually evolve lead to what is the value of the legislative actions. And if you go on to the next. And I wanted to bring this slide back because I think it's important. We had brought this to your attention before. Public benefits will, we believe, come from a number of different stages, phases, and processes. When the project fulfills its baseline requirements, say for complete streets, certainly that will contain at least a good chunk of public benefit that will benefit the area, not only for transportation and circulation, but be done in such a way that is more environmentally friendly than we've done streets in the past. There'll also be negotiated community benefits. And those things are in those areas, as mentioned from council, and potentially additional areas of community benefits as specified by the Station Area Advisory Group and the community. And then there will be Google project features, which are things above and beyond even the baseline or community benefits that Google chooses to do because they have a vision of what they want to create in the overall project. And those things will certainly have a public benefit, or could very well have a public benefit, but wouldn't necessarily be counted against what are quote unquote technically community benefits. And if you'd go on to the slide, some of this is just a little bit of recursive information from Tim's good schedule discussion. But in September, it was September 24th, OE, Office of Economic Development, will include highlights or insights into the development agreement as it unfolds by that time. And that we will absolutely present the development agreement to the SOG in early 2021. We will also be updating, as I'm sharing with you now, updates at future meetings. We don't know exactly the pace we'll be working on, but certainly as you see the last bullet, Council will be reviewing the approvals in March or April. So we'll need to be probably in February and March for the full DA review at the SOG. So with that, that concludes my presentation. And again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy. So as we mentioned earlier, at the end of each one of these segments of the presentations, we're going to stop and hopefully hear from you all, any questions, comments that you might have. I'm going to go ahead and actually stop sharing the screen so that hopefully you all have some more real estate on your screen to be able to see each other. So with that, just a reminder, the hand raise feature looks like you all know it well. Edward, I see your hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself now if you'd like to make a comment.
Thank you, Dave, and obviously thank you everybody for the presentation. It's a vast scope to cover in under ideal situation, and this is obviously not an ideal situation. I wanted to return back partially to what Harvey had said. The DSAP is far too vast to be treated as an addendum to an EIR. The arena was a far smaller undertaking, and it benefited from both the Arena Oversight Committee during the process and the Arena Authority for after the fact. The DSAP, if done properly, is a once-in-a-generation undertaking and needs to be taken more seriously than an addendum. A DSAP subcommittee needs to be in place during the creation of the document, with a DSAP working group in place to address inconsistencies and unforeseen consequences as they arise afterwards. And on a related note, based on the council meeting yesterday, updates to the historic resources inventory need to be in place before the Downtown West and DSAP documents are finalized. TBCE needs to direct the Historic Preservation Officer, along with the required staff and resources, to focus HRI updates on the Diridon Station area. As we saw at yesterday's City Council meeting, waiting until there's a specific pending development under consideration makes it all too easy to marginalize an existing structure's historic importance and march beneath the banner of progress to authorize the demolition of documented historic resources that meet multiple requirements for city landmark status. While this is legally allowed, it's far from best practices and seems custom designed as an end run around any thoughtful consideration.
Thank you for that, Edward. Tim or team, any thoughts, response at this time?
Hello, this is Robert Mindford, Deputy Director for Planning.
Hi, Robert.
Edward, your question is twofold, so I would like to answer the historic preservation component of it. As part of both the Google project and the DSAP, surveys are being conducted, and those surveys, the results of those surveys will be included in the city's historic resources inventory. So there is no circumvention over there. With regards to the DSAP SEQA, which so far studies are being conducted, that could result in either an EIR or an addendum to the downtown strategy. Please note that the DSAP boundaries are located within the downtown strategy area, for which an EIR was prepared just over a year ago, about a year and a half, and that is a planning document. The DSAP is also a planning document. So the fact that it's located within the geographic boundaries of the downtown strategy and the fact that we have a fresh, well-prepared EIR, we don't want our work to be monotonous. We already know there is a big project there, Google project, which is undergoing its own SEQA review. We also know that there are a lot of projects that are lined up within the DSAP area and its immediate environs. Each development project that comes in will be evaluated within the context of the SEQA document that is being prepared, which is a planning document, so that the appropriate SEQA document will be prepared. We don't know the specifics of each project, and if we are going to try to clear every project with that EIR, it's going to be meaningless because the projects will come in and each one is unique. So if we have a planning document, we'll be able to evaluate each project, and that is the proper planning that we are embarking on. Thank you.
Procedural question, Dave. Is a minor follow-up allowed or no?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is really a discussion. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The minor follow-up is I've been the chair of as Robert knows, I've been the chair of the Historic Landmarks Commission for the last 5 years, and we just saw a project that was not, the HRI was not updated before a development proposal came forward, and both City Council and the applicant used that fact as a reason to not landmark it. That the HRI, in some instances, is 10 to 15 years old, so some buildings that by CEQA weren't even eligible when it was last updated would be eligible now. If we wait until development proposals are there, as the council members and as the staff members made clear at the meeting yesterday, we don't want to interfere with this specific project, so no, we're not going to grant this status. They need to be looked at separately, so therefore before development of those individual buildings comes through.
Thank you for that, Edward. We'll definitely take that note. Just real quick, I see members of the public also raising their hands. We appreciate that. There will be opportunity towards the end of the meeting for public comment. Feel free to let me know that you do have public comment and we'll keep track of that. But for now, we're going to keep going through the SOG discussion. And Jeffrey, I see you had your hand raised, so you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep, Jeffrey Buchanan with Working Partnerships USA. Nancy, appreciated the presentation and the update on the where we are with the development agreement. I think when we last spoke in January, we were looking at a late April council study session, and I think we had quite some discussion about providing information. I think it was supposedly an info memo that would come out preceding that study session on the initial findings from HRNA as to answering some of those questions about the financial value of those legislative decisions going into some of the negotiations around community benefits. So just wondering if you can share any update on where HRNA's analysis is and when we might be able to see that information, whether it's in an info memo or otherwise.
I believe I was the one that had made that commitment to Councilmember Perales, and then what we said was that in the study session, we would be sharing any insights that we had related to the value capture and the economics of the project. So we would be doing that in the context of that September study session.
Thank you, Kim. I'm gonna also actually request, just so everyone knows, everyone, including the members of the public, when city staff, when we speak up, let's also let everyone know who we are, just to make it easy for everyone to track. Thank you so much for that, Kim. So with that, we'll move to Kevin. You're up if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, getting better at this. That's the biggest problem it seems is unmuting.
You're doing great.
So Kevin Chrisman, Gardner Neighborhood. Need to address two things here. As you know, since our last SOG meeting, the city decided that in a study session that it was going to be okay to put the rail through our neighborhoods instead of going around it, which to me was quite dismaying in view of the fact that this neighborhood has been about 80% Latino for a long, long time now, and has been subjected to the railroad, 280, the development of 87, and all these other things that affect the quality of life. And in spite of all this, the city still decided to go ahead and put the railroad through our neighborhood once again. And I think that from a social justice aspect, that maybe I'm the wrong guy to be saying this, being the white guy, but it's really a travesty that we're going to have the railroads going through our neighborhood, and it should have gone around the neighborhood, especially after all the years of abuse that this neighborhood has taken in regard to that. So off of that, I heard that there is a possibility of, we haven't got to it yet, but on the parks issue, that there would be a possibility of a community center going in the DSAP area, when we have a perfectly good community center here in Gardner that has been underutilized. It was built with Measure P funds and has been closed since the economic downturn around 2008, and it's been in reuse. And I'd like to see, before we have any more community centers be built, that Gardner's Center is open full time. In connection with that, with all the housing that's going to be going in over in the DSAP area, we need to figure out a better way of getting children safely across 280 to the Gardner Academy. And I know that last week there was about a 4-hour discussion about how to get children safely across 880 from the Charcot development over there by 87. And I think that with a project the size of this, and this is supposed to be kind of a landmark, iconic design and everything, that there's all these residual problems that crop up when we don't include the surrounding neighborhoods. So I think we need to get a lot more serious about the overcrossing on Bird at 280 for making it safer for the children to cross for school.
Kevin, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Kevin, but we have a full kind of discussion around each one of these components coming up as part of the presentation. I'd love to give a little background for folks, including the survey results, before we dive into that. I'm happy to let the team, maybe if they have any initial response to that, to do that now. And I really appreciate this topic. We want to give it plenty of time. This was meant to just be initially any comments or question based on the process, the date that was presented. So if we can keep it focused, that would be great. With that, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if the city staff team has any response to that or wants to add to that at this point, we can do that, or we can hold that until we're going to go through each one of those components that you mentioned in great detail during the next segment of the presentation, and we'll have time to speak to each.
Yeah, I put it in now, I asked the question now because when you brought up the community benefits, this needs to be, that needs to be in that package up front, very big and large.
That's understood. That's understood. City team, any response to that request before we move forward? Thank you for that, Kevin.
Sure. This is Jessica Zanka, Deputy Director for DOT, and I think we've certainly heard, Kevin, thank you for that. We've definitely heard the concerns about crossing 280 at Bird over the years, and it's one of those key reasons that it's one of the 5 initial ideas that we have for a critical component of the update to the DSAP to include a safer pedestrian bicyclist crossing over 280 at Bird. And so just as Dave said, we'll definitely get into that. It was very popular in the survey too. So we're definitely hearing that, and we've heard it in walks in the Gardner neighborhood, et cetera, before too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. With that, I see that David has his hand up. David, you're next. If you could unmute yourself.
Great, thanks very much. David Meyer from Silicon Valley at Home. I just want to thank Tim for his overview of kind of how the schedule is being redone. I know it was a massive undertaking to try to figure that out and to try to make it work. One thing I was just curious about on that schedule is that because of the DSAP being pushed out several months, I was curious if that delay is going to have an impact on any plans that have already been submitted or already in initial review.
Sure. So, I mean, the plans under review are being reviewed under current policies. And while we've had interest from applicants in trying to kind of pre-clear a project, assuming that, say, height limits in the DSAP change, you know, that's something that we're going to have to work closely with applicants on, because, you know, in development review, we have to go by what's currently on the books. We can't sort of pre-approve, I don't believe we can pre-approve a project contingent on the council making a legislative act in the future. And Rosalind, I don't know if you look like you might have something to add.
Hi, Rosalind Huey, Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. And Tim, you answered it perfectly. Nothing to add. Tim is absolutely correct. Any development proposals that we currently have on hand or reviewing will have to comply with the current policies and plan in place. However, obviously applicants, you know, they could decide to wait until after the DSAP amendment is approved, anticipated in the spring.
Thank you, Tim and Rosalind, and thank you very much for the question, David. Harvey, I see your hand raised next. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I want to second what Ed had suggested.
Harvey, sorry, just let everyone know who you are, where you're from.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Harvey Darnell, North Willow Glen Neighborhood Association, also on the General Plan Update Task Force. And I'm concerned that you're going to try to bring a significant larger number of housing units into this area without a full EIR. You have raised the height limits considerably in this area, and I think it changes the character of the plan that you approved last year, whatever it was called, I've forgotten the name. And I think we need more than just an addendum. We need a process that has full public outreach. And by the way, on the public outreach, I am not going to be critical of the groups that you have shown in your presentation. They're good groups, but they are not immediately present around this DSAP area. There are 7 or 8 neighborhood associations that have joined together to form the DANG group because we feel that we have not been heard And I think that we need to do a more robust community process that would be required under a draft EIR. So that's one thing. Okay.
I appreciate that, Harvey.
So the other thing that I'm concerned about, and I think that we also need a working group, as Ed suggested, of community leaders in the immediate area to help this process, both up to the point where the DSAP is approved and also afterwards in the implementation phase. And we've done that with the arena process in the past. I think we could do that with this as well. It's just something I'm throwing out there for us to think about. We have the Good Neighbor Committee for years, and I think this would be a springboard for that. I do have other things to comment on. I would like to talk about parks and that presentation.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind to hold that, Harvey, we can talk about it then. Is that okay?
I'm willing to do that. I want to make sure that we do have an opportunity because
for sure
we've created a list of issues that we have around the parks and trails, et cetera.
We definitely want to allow plenty of time for that. We'll have a segment after each one of those major components that was part of the survey and those videos to talk to. So thank you for that. Tim or team, did you want to respond at all to Harvey's question or request about additional outreach? I know we had some ideas that you showed earlier.
Well, I guess I would just reiterate what Robert said earlier and what I said earlier, that, the form of the environmental document doesn't determine what the outreach process will be. The city has committed to making the environmental document available for public review, whether it's required under CEQA or not. And the outreach process for the plan doesn't depend on what type of environmental document it is. So we've met with DANG from planning, DOT, and parks have all had meetings with DANG, and we've committed to having more meetings with DANG. We're also going to be meeting with other stakeholder groups because we want to have a process that's open and inclusive, to everyone, and takes into account the different perspectives that people have about this area.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Harvey. Kathy, I see your hand raised next. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Kathy Sutherland of the Domus Park Neighborhood Association. And I would like to go back to the EIR and the change that was made in our neighborhood when downtown expanded west to the Caltrain station. At that time, when the downtown boundaries expanded, OEI was in force. And there was nothing that was going to be developed within the Domus Park boundaries above 8 stories. So when downtown expanded, the thought was, we can easily take 8 stories. We're not going to get engaged at this point in time. But in the middle, and right before the downtown expansion was approved, council decided to get rid of OEI, which changed the game for Domus Park. Now there's a map out that has heights up to 290 feet within these boundaries that share property lines with single-family homes. We need a full EIR. Just doing an addendum and the light work that it takes to do an addendum without community input from the residents who are going to be affected is not fair. The OEI elimination in the middle of approving the downtown boundary expansion was not fair. Domus Park would have been much more engaged if we had known that OEI was going to go away. So I would like to suggest that, as I've been told that the DSAP update is going to be done within the city, within house, that the city needs to look at working with the neighborhood partners who are going to be affected by the DSAP update, and that doing something in-house is not a way to create a good, solid document that everybody can support. Doing it in-house without the neighborhood voice is, after all the time and effort we've all put into our neighborhoods to make them great and to understand development so we can welcome development, ends up being a slap in the face. So from my neighborhood and from our partners within the DANG, we want neighborhoods to be engaged in the DSAP update, and that the staff, city staff, find ways to communicate with us, present things to us, and then let us react, rather than having something posted online that is on a video platform.
Appreciate that, Kathy. Very, very much duly noted. And as you saw from Tim's presentation earlier, and we'll continue to kind of talk about that as we go here, there are many engagement opportunities planned moving forward.
I'm not talking about engagement and opportunities for the public. I am talking about specifically including a neighborhood voice when it comes time to start designing this.
Right, and I think that is one of the stakeholder groups for sure that the city is intending to engage, as Tim mentioned. I don't know if city staff wants to add to that, but we definitely hear where you're coming from, Kathy, and the city is very much open to and is planning to have those conversations with your group. But we also are saying just community engagement opportunities because we want to open it up to others as well to be engaged. But
We don't want to be an outreach. We want to be a part.
A partner in
which
the
are
process.
very different, right?
Right. And I in conversation with city staff, that's fully understood. So we appreciate your comment. Thank you. Looks like Sandra, I see your hand raised next. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, it's Sandra Weber, Plant 51. Being that we are right up against that border, the boundaries of that DSAP plan, I too agree with that. I think with additional outreach, please include us. I think an addendum can be overlooked. And I see it in the Department of Transportation video, just that primary bikeway and pathway leading from east-west, it kind of ends right at us. So I think being that we're ground zero right there up against that boundary, I think we need more information. So I'm on board with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Definitely duly noted. Kevin, looks like you raised your hand again. Do you have another comment to add?
Yeah, I just want to chime in that I think we need a working group because the decisions that are made from this, the residents of these neighborhoods have to live with the results of what is done forever. Because once you have a building of whatever height, it creates a shadow or a mini climate that we have to live with forever. And we need to be in on the beginning of this decision process to make sure that the neighborhoods just aren't steamrolled.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that, Kevin. And yes, again, the conversations we've had with city staff, they are fully aware and prepared, and we'll be reaching out to you all, knowing that you all will be impacted very much so by this planning effort to make sure that you are partners and your voice is heard. So we appreciate all that input. Okay, looks like Harvey, you're back around. You know what, Laura, we haven't heard from Laura yet. If you don't mind, Harvey, I'm gonna allow Laura to jump in here and then we'll come right back to you.
Can I have a quick comment? Yeah.
Okay, Laura, you
Thanks,
should be
Dave.
able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. There was more community input.
Sorry, Laura, can you please let folks know who you are and association you're with?
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura Winter, representing the St. Leo's neighborhood. There was more community input for the arena 30 years ago than there's been for this latest iteration of the DSAP. And there has to be a working group and a committee comprised of members of the community going forward to discuss this. This is the biggest project San Jose has ever undertaken. And just doing a slapdash approval of the existing DSAP is really disrespectful to the neighborhoods. We have worked really well with the city on many projects before. Most of us on the Dearden area neighborhood group have 20, 30 plus years of engagement with the city. They know who we are. They know we work well with others. So this is something that is really an imperative going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Laura. Thank you for that comment. Harvey, you're up again.
So a piece of institutional memory. I remember back in the early 00s, maybe 2004 or whatever, when the city was proposing a general plan amendment to extend the downtown it ended at 87, Highway 87. And, oh, I'll start my video. Okay, sorry. It's ended at Highway 87, and they moved it to the rail line, the Diridon station and the UP rail line. And I called up Kathy, who was chair of the Delmas Park NAC, and said, "Are you aware that they're going to put you in downtown? I thought you had agreements with Cindy Chavez that would not happen." Well, I remember her calling.
Harvey, I don't mean to cut you off, but I love your stories. And I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure we have enough time to get through the rest of the
I understand,
yeah.
But there was a promise made back then to the Delmas Park neighborhood that I became part of, being the adjacent NAC. So I became very aware of it, and particularly on being on the general plan update task force. So there was a promise made. So I think that we should carry forward that promise.
Very much understood, Harvey. We appreciate that. Yeah, I think, city staff, I see a lot of nodding heads. I think everyone is hearing you all loud and clear, and we will follow up after this meeting with more discussion on that topic. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry for cutting you off, Harvey. I didn't.
No. I agree. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so with that, we are going to go ahead and move on to the next segment of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again so you all can see it. And with that, we're going to now transition, as I mentioned earlier. Very importantly, we want to make sure that we present back to you all the great results that we got from the survey that was taken, as well as giving those that didn't have a chance to see the videos or that background information, some of those key takeaways that led into the survey and the results themselves. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt Ramey from our consultant team to take us through that. So Matt, you're on.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. It is definitely odd to have this format when we've spent so much time together in person. So, I guess it's better than the alternative. So I'm going to take some time going through the results of the survey and just hit some of the highlights. As you all know, the survey was online for approximately a month and was based on some videos. If we go to the next slide, please. So I think we just want to acknowledge again that the engagement process that we had identified for the spring was modified because of COVID. So we were all set to have the meetings, to have engagement, like we had all the materials prepared, and then COVID happened. And so we had to scramble, and city staff did a great job of pulling things together. But what we ended up with, because there is so much information, what we ended up doing, as you know, was a series of topical presentations online, and those also had comments associated with it, and then an online survey. And again, the point of doing this work was to provide an update of everything that was going on in the downtown and Diridon areas, and also to address some specific critical questions across multiple topic areas. So the online survey had 606 responses. There were 583 in English, 10 in Spanish, and 13 of the SOG members provided comments through the survey. All materials were provided in English and Spanish. There were multiple rounds of outreach to try and get as many people as we could to participate in the survey. It was indeed a challenging time given what was going on overall with COVID. But we did do emails to community members through the email database. We ask you all to reach out to your members. We make calls and emails to the SOG. And so we also extended the survey because we wanted to make sure we could get more responses from this. So we go to the next slide. The survey really asked some specific questions about specific topics. It wasn't just a broad survey because of how much engagement we have been doing and how many conversations we've had on all of these topics and all of these overlapping plans that have been going on for a while. And so we, just to sort of show the relationship here, one of the major activities is amending the DSAP, and there were questions for this around the building heights, the amount of housing, and the amount of commercial. The downtown transportation plan is going on and currently in process, and so there were questions about the ideas that came forth that were being proposed in the transportation plan and whether they were exciting for the area or concerning. There were topics, questions related to community services and facilities and predominantly, but also parks and recreation. So there's a background on the parks and recreation presentation with questions really related to the variety of programs and services that could be offered and the concept of having a community center in the Diridon station area. And this also impacts the Google project as well, the responses to this. The final category is about affordable housing, job training, and community benefits. The city is currently undertaking an affordable housing implementation plan, and then the Google project is also clearly thinking about a lot of these topics as well. And so this information from the survey is feeding into those two plans as well. And so there's a lot of overlapping information that's going on here in terms of what it's going to feed into. This is a quick breakdown of the race ethnicity of the survey respondents. The blue is the people who responded to the survey. The orange here is the city of San Jose. I want to point out here that we did not, for all of the results, we did not include 13 SOG members, and we really only focused on the members of the public who responded to the survey. But we will identify at certain places the consistency between the SOG and the public. And so as we can see here, there was a greater percentage of white respondents compared to the city and fewer Hispanic, Latino, and Asian. There was, clearly a number of people declined to state their race ethnicity. And so, it's not completely representative, but we did get a good number and a good diversity of commenters. Next slide, please. We also looked geographically at where the comments, the respondents came from. And essentially, the majority of the responses came from 3 zip codes, 95126, 95125, and 95112. The most was 95126. And then you can see a distribution throughout the city as well. And there were even people from the entire Bay Area, but really the majority, a third, came from these 3 zip codes. Next slide. A little bit more information about who responded in the demographics. For age, it was actually relatively evenly spread, which is definitely more unique for a survey than we're used to. 46% of the people occasionally use Diridon Station, and just under half of the people who responded were male, and almost a 2-to-1 ratio to female. Next. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the different topical areas. And the way that we're going to work this, because there's so much information here, is that we're going to give a little bit of background on each topic. We're not going to essentially repeat the information that was in the videos, but just give a real high-level overview of the sort of the why, provide an overview of the survey results, and then open it up to discussion and questions from the SOG members. And so we'll do that for each topic. And so we're going to need to move our way through these topics. I think there's 5 different points that we're going to stop and have conversations. So starting with the Diridon Station area plan, we have gone into this already, and we clearly have heard the concerns from a lot of the neighborhood groups about the plan and the planning process. But as you all know, the environment has changed since the plan was adopted in 2014. There's no ballpark. There was the council decision for allowing greater height limits recently. We have the Bay Area housing crisis going on, the rapid expansion of jobs. There's more clarity on the transit expansion at Diridon Station. We have this proposal for Google's Downtown West project. And then there's also all of these studies going on in and around the downtown, and all of this information needs to be included into the updated DSAP. The proposed changes, as were mentioned actually a lot in the comments and questions from SOG members, while the overall vision of creating a walkable mixed-use place has remained the same, there are certainly some changes that are being proposed, including expanding the plan boundary, a modification of the allowed land uses with actually greater mixing of those uses, an increase in the allowable building heights due to the change in OEI, and then an expansion of the development capacity to increase the amount of development that's allowed in the area. Next, please. The questions that were asked were for this topic were essentially threefold. It was really essentially thinking about the building heights, the building height map and the building heights that were presented, the amount of housing and the amount of commercial development. The question was asked about whether this amount of development and the building heights was about right, far too high, or far too low. Across the board, as you can see here, the building heights, the amount of housing, and the commercial, the about right answer received the highest amount. And so, it seems that from the survey respondents, at least, that we're honing in on a direction and that, some acceptance. However, there was some comments sort of within that. So with building heights, 25% of the people said that the building heights were too high, while 31% said that they were too low, and that's combining the two upper and lower numbers. With housing, only 20% said it was too high, and then 39% actually said it was too low. So with housing, it sounded like the survey results were indicating that it was either about right, or about 80% said that it was about right, or there wasn't enough housing. It was a slightly opposite with commercial. 55% said about right, and then 26% said that it was actually there's too much commercial development, meaning there should be more residential development going on here. And the SOG members came up with about the same responses here in terms of a preference for about right. Go to the next slide. So we're going to pause here and take some questions. Again, I apologize, given the amount of information, we didn't go through everything in a lot of detail, but we wanted to get some additional reaction to what's already been stated for this. So Dave, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Leading us through?
Yes, so just like we've been doing and you all have proven to be experts at, we're going to use the hand raise function. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I know a lot of you already had a chance, especially with the DSAP itself, to provide comments. And as Matt mentioned, we're going to next move into transportation, parks, and affordable housing as well. So if you have any comments related to those, we can address those then. With that, I see Kathy, you have your hand raised, so feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Kathy Sutherland with Domus Park. I also wanted to let the rest of the SOG members know that the DANG, which is the Diridon Area Neighborhood Group, sent in several pages worth of comments regarding all three of the presentations. And one of the things that we also sent in was a map that was based upon the preliminary heights that the planning department was sending in. Laura sent it yesterday, and I don't know if she can get it up there, but one of the things that we colored in were the single family home areas. And the areas within the DSAP that have single family homes, very, very minor areas, but the proposed height adjacent to those single family homes in many places is over 250 feet. So when the planning department looks at developable heights, we would like them to consider the adjacent buildings and not just look at how tall you can go. How high is appropriate in a single family neighborhood? How high is it appropriate to develop? There are not that many of them. It's just a small area. So we would like the planning department to look at that and cite height away from single family residents. In addition to that, the other thing that we have asked for is a DSAP working group that would be in place for at least 5 years, so that the development that is going to be flooding into this neighborhood and into this area, that it can be looked at holistically, not just through the planning lens, but also through the neighborhood lens. Delmas Park has never said no to a development. And in fact, we recently supported increasing developable heights on a large site from 5 stories to, I think, when we talked to them, they wanted to go 20 stories. And we sent in a letter supporting that. So we are not anti-development. We do think density needs to be placed in the appropriate location, and that the appropriate location is determined by what is adjacent to the site. So the DANG, once again, would like to ask for a DSAP working group. And then we would also like to ask for neighborhood input as the DSAP gets amended in the whole process, not as outreach.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Oh, there seems to be some reverb going on. I'm gonna mute a couple mics just to make sure that doesn't happen. So Kathy, I just want to assure you that we did actually share both of those as public record with the SOG. It's on the project website, so that will be included in the summary as well. So thank you for that information. With that, any reactions or any follow-up comments from staff on those requests?
Hi, Dave. Again, Rosalind Huey, Director of the Department of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. And I really do appreciate all the comments that we're hearing on how the residents want to work in partnership with the city. And that's the very essence of planning. And our department is committed to do that. We understand that the neighbors are the ones who are most directly impacted, and you are the ones going to be living with whatever happens throughout the area for many, many years to come. We're going to be excited to work with you. Kathy, I reached out to you and Bob Statler of the DANG, so we're going to look forward to having many, many more conversations with you. And yes, I mean, we want to work in partnership with you. So I just wanted to share that with the group. We hear you loud and clear. And again, we see this as our role of planners. And I think particularly in the times that we find ourselves in currently right now, I think now more than ever, we understand that our work, really, we need to be leading with people and not necessarily about projects and buildings and how things look. But our work really is about the people in those places. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. Kevin, I see your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah. One of the interesting things
Kevin, sorry, please remind us who you are, organization.
Kevin Christman, Gardner Neighborhood Association. One of the subliminal things that obviously has come out of this survey was that there were 3 zip codes that are very passionate about the results here. And guess what? It's the neighborhoods that are directly affected from it. that are part of it. So that's telling you something that maybe you weren't looking for, but that shows the importance of having a DSAP working group. The other thing is I would like to see a breakdown of the building heights, the residential and commercial breakdowns of the different zip codes and of the SOG members that participated. You said it was similar, but I think that with your technology, you could probably quickly do a breakdown and give us not only for 95126, 95125, and 95112, but the SOG members as well. I'd like to see if there's any correlation there or if there's something that we're missing.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Yeah, I'm sure we can follow up with that information. That shouldn't be an issue at all. So we can follow up after this meeting with that info. Thank you for that, Kevin.
Thank you.
Harvey.
Yeah.
Thank you, with Luke. You're up, Harvey.
Okay, thank you. I want to second what Kevin
Harvey,
just-
sorry, name and organization.
Harvey
I
Darnell.
apologize. Thank you.
Sorry. No, you don't have to apologize. I should know this.
That's true.
This is like
That's
my
true.
20th Zoom meeting. And
I didn't want to say anything, Harvey. I didn't want to say anything, but you're right.
So Harvey Darnell, North Willow Glen Neighborhood Association. I'm concerned, I want to second what Kevin has said and also what Kathy has said as well. And I want to make sure that if you can parse out the different statistics by the different zip codes, it would be helpful to see which neighborhoods, how close they were to the project as to whether they like the building heights, et cetera. I personally think as Kathy has said, building heights are fine, provided you've got sufficient interface with the existing small numbers of single-family residents in the area. And there's also a historic district as well, the Lake House District. And I want to make sure that buildings aren't built on top of it, eclipsing it.
Understood.
The other thing that I'm more concerned about is looking at your breakdown by race and ethnicity. And having experienced the last 3 weeks in this country, I'm looking at Hispanics, which are 32%, only were 8% of the respondents. Black, which are 3% of San Jose, are 1%. Asian, 8% versus 36%. So we're not hitting the minorities. Our outreach to our minorities was insufficient for this survey. And I feel it's been insufficient for this latest round of online SAG process. I didn't see anything that really was in Spanish.
Everything was in Spanish, actually.
Hispanic community in the project area.
Right, right. No, and Harvey, that's a great point. And I don't know if we noted that earlier, but we are expanding or extending the survey for that very point, because we do feel like there's more of an opportunity to continue to reach out to some of those that are unrepresented in the survey results, and to continue to work with our community partners to see what we can do in the situation that we're in, knowing that not everyone has access to online resources, to find creative ways to reach out to folks to hopefully get the input incorporated in the final results as well. So we really appreciate that comment.
Yeah, and
Dave, can I jump in quickly?
Sure, please do.
Sorry with that. I just, Harvey, I think we, and everyone else, we all agree that the numbers were not, for the minority groups, were not as high as we all wanted them to be. And through the process, we actually were taking stock as we were doing the survey and seeing the responses come in and identifying. And so that's why we extended the survey. We engaged the community partners again to try and get even more. And so we want to keep the survey open even longer to see if we can get more participation as well. And so, you know, we completely agree with you.
Definitely.
Kevin and I were chair of the Gardner, Greater Gardner NAC. Kathy was chair of the Delmas Park NAC. And I think you could, for example, reach out to the Gardner Academy, which is predominantly Hispanic, and get a lot of the parents. That's the way often when we were having problems getting participation from that segment of the community, that's how we did it. That's one way.
I appreciate that, Harvey, and all of those ideas. I mean, you are, that's one thing we also want to mention. Obviously, you are our extension of the greater community as well. Having 38 members on this amazing advisory group gives us the benefit of having you as our contacts to the greater community. So I really appreciate that idea, Harvey. Any idea you all have as well, beyond the community partners that we mentioned, you all are equally connected. So please do let us know any other ideas that you have. Email it to us, follow up with us. We'll follow up with you and continue that conversation. So thank you, Harvey. That was an excellent point. Thank you so much.
May I ask a question? Who did you use to do outreach?
Who did we use to do outreach?
Yes. Did you hire any companies to do that? That leg of the outreach, to outreach to these communities that really have very little participation in City Hall most of the time.
Yeah. I'll maybe just jump in and answer quickly. Tim talked about the 7 community partners that we have that are under contract with the city. So those groups were engaged beginning, I believe, in January, December or January, February, specifically to help do engagement with the diversity of members of the city. You know, the challenge we had is that, and those groups were supposed to be doing, you know, smaller meetings, focus group meetings, pop-up workshops within the community, and that was the intent. So they were brought on, they were all ramped up and ready to go, and then COVID hit, and we continued working with them to try and get additional participation, but it really became difficult as the priorities in these communities shifted for people.
Maybe I'll talk to you about that offline, but yes, there is a particular way to do that. And I think we'll talk about it offline, okay?
Okay, that sounds great. And this is, as you can see here, the groups. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that, Tim, to bring that up as well. And yeah, Reginald, as I mentioned earlier, please do reach out to us and let us know how best to reach those that we haven't been able to thus far. It looks like Reverend Ray, or representing Reverend Ray, had their hand up next.
No, I'm representing myself. This is Reverend Ray with Pat.
Oh, thank you.
Let me make some notes in light of the COVID environment and in light of the language that I'm listening to. It's kind of funny. Excuse me a second. In light of the data and collection of data and using language such as the underrepresented minority, the reality is the majority that you're speaking of, they're just underrepresented in the survey information. So I think there needs to be an alignment with one's understanding, particularly to the impacted community and the demographics of the impacted community. The second piece in relationship to the individuals that you have contracted to collect information, that is to connect you to the individuals closest to the pain, those who are mostly impacted. I think you failed in identifying the ability of direct service organizations to be a grassroots facilitator and connector of information related to different organizations that have different techniques and different tools, even during situations like COVID-19, that give them the versatility to engage a certain communities, just not from a small group organizing or a door knock organizing. I think in this environment, you must show a veracity of flexibility in how you choose to engage, and you cannot be satisfied with not contacting or connecting relational to the low numbers that you have. So one, your lexicon relational to the individuals that you're talking about being the minority, I need you to refocus that. Two, when you hear me speak, also you hear me speaking representing over 100 faith and clergy elders who are prepared to stand up specific to housing and those who are most impacted. And so we're always going to come from a moral perspective and a moral compass. And that's the challenge here, that when you see and identify underrepresented groups, regardless of the circumstances or the situations, you need to be more creative and more imaginative in how you go about reaching them. And be careful relational to speaking for those who are impacted. Because as I look at the panel here, I don't think that many of us are impacted, regardless of the impact it may have in your community. Over time, you'll make the adjustment. But for those relational to being displaced, those who are missing from this panel, those organizations that cannot speak, well, we need to be mindful of that. And of course, take on an imaginative, creative way to make sure that their voice is never absent from these type of discussions. Thanks.
Very much appreciate that, Reverend Ray. And again, on that note, any ideas you have that you could help us in that creativity would be greatly appreciated, in making sure that all have access to the process equally. With that, Edward, I see that you had your hand up next.
Very well put, Reverend Ray. I'll pivot a little because he said that much more eloquently than I could even pretend to do so. So I know it was an anonymous survey, but I'm honestly both upset and a little appalled that only 13 of the SAG members responded to the survey. Because if the survey wasn't enough to get close to 100% outreach and close to 100% response from the SAG members, how good was it truly at going to the outer layers of the young and getting additional people? So I think that 13 out of 38 is unfortunately a very telling proportion, that we couldn't even get 50% responses out of the SAG members. So whatever we can do you can't obviously force responses, but to encourage SAG members to respond comprehensively and thoroughly, I think it's important if we're to honestly hold ourselves up as representative of the community in this process.
I very much agree with that, Edward. Thank you for that note. Yeah, I realize, I mean, again, I think with the situation we're in, people maybe had higher priorities. We did try our best and actually called every single SOG member as a follow-up, asking you to please take the survey when you have the opportunity. And I think there still is an opportunity now, right? We're going to extend the time out. And now that we have all this great conversation, hopefully that will entice you to please do log in and take the survey so that we can hear from all of you equally as well. So I appreciate that, Edward, very much. Kevin, I see your hand raised next. If you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to commend Reverend Ray for what he was talking about. And this is part of the problem that we're being exposed to within the last month on a lot of social issues, is that it may be that we're reaching out to people in a way that white folk like to communicate, but we're missing the boat. Because I know here over in Gardner, we're 80% Latino and we have such a poor showing on that survey from that, it means we're not reaching the neighborhood over here at all. And I don't know whether it's a digital divide sort of thing or what, but maybe you need to get another consultant on board who, like Reginald was talking about and Reverend Ray were talking about, know how to engage with these communities so we can get their input.
Appreciate that, Kevin. Yeah, and these are, again, all ideas that we're considering here moving forward to increase our creativity and capacity to continue to give all that want access to the process. So I appreciate those thoughts and continue to bring any of those creative thoughts to us, and we'll continue to look into that as well to make sure that we do better as we move forward. So with that, we're going to go ahead and now move to the next section of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again. All right, Matt, you're up.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the comments. The next section we're going to talk about is the potential transportation improvements in the Huron Station area, of which there are clearly many, and there's clearly a lot going on. I think we've covered a lot of these topics over the last few years, but there are these multiple transportation plans, projects, and proposals that are going on. The DISC is happening, the Google's Downtown West proposal, the Downtown Transportation Plan, the San Jose Citywide Bike Plan. All of these are plans that are integrating with one another and really need to integrate and come together in a lot of ways in the Diridon Station area. So the public draft of the DSAP, the transportation chapter, will be released with the rest of the DSAP in the fall. And part of what really needs to happen here and what is going to happen is pulling a lot of these ideas from all of these other plans together. Now, clearly, we don't know everything at this point, but the city is trying to work through a lot of the details and then incorporate those into the plan. Next slide, please. So a lot of the comments that were received in the open-ended portion of the survey also paralleled comments that we'd received throughout the process overall. And so some of the priorities for transportation network integration were really expanding transit service efficiency and access, ensuring pedestrian and bicycle safety and access, analyzing and understanding the transportation and circulation impacts on the area, looking at parking, and then again, it's really, there were a lot of comments about understanding how land use and transportation decisions in the area are going to not only address mobility for people visiting, but the people who live in the area and immediately adjacent to the area. And actually, when we look at the open-ended comments, they really revolved around three components that got the most comments in the survey. The first was the need for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure throughout the DSAP. And in the open-ended comments, I believe there were over 100 comments related to that topic. The next was for more frequent public transit. And then the last one was to make sure that while there is a focus on public transit and there is a focus on bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, we also need to pay attention to keeping access to and through the area by car. And so there were also a lot of comments around transportation safety, particularly around, as was mentioned earlier, the 280 and Bird interchange. Next slide. So there were two questions really. There were two questions asked in this section. So the initial ideas for the Diridon Station area and the downtown transportation plans were presented, and then questions were asked about whether they were exciting to people or whether they were concerning. And for the exciting, the improvements to the light rail system and enhancing bike corridors were really the two top ones, followed closely by improvements to the Bird Avenue 280 interchange. And so we know that came up earlier as a comment. And so that was also reflected here in the survey as well. The 34%, I said it was exciting, the concept of closing the 87 off-ramp to Santa Clara Street and improving the 87 interchange. Then with the concerning, the ones that were most concerning for the community, interestingly, were closing the off-ramp, even though it still got a high number. And then a lot of people actually said none of the above. But what we see with the nearly 600 people who responded to the survey is that a lot of the ideas that are coming forward are good ideas, ideas that should move forward, with some concern over some of those, over some of the specifics. The SOG, the 13 SOG members had essentially the same top three concepts of what was exciting. So of the 13, of the 38 who responded, they were somewhat parallel to the nearly 600 public comments. Okay, next. Okay, we're gonna go back to the questions and comments about transportation improvements.
Thank you, Matt. Same routine here. Nate, I see that you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, Nate, we can't quite hear you. Looks like you're unmuted, but nope. Nope, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Maybe we'll give you a chance to see if you can fix that. And did anyone else have any comments or suggestions? Edward, you're up.
I think if the topic of closing the 87 off-ramp was kind of publicly raised more broadly, i.e. taken to the voters, I would think it would lose badly. I mean, I go by there by bike and on pedestrian quite often, and a lot of people that I talk to, when I mention that item, they kind of look and said, well, why would we do that? It'll be harder for me to get downtown. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm very much surprised that the data came back on that. And I think if it did go to the voters, the response would be a resounding negative.
Thank you for that comment, Edward. Duly noted.
Anyone on staff want to?
Sure. This is Jessica Zank, and I'm Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation. Yeah, we're taking all of this feedback tonight, as well as in any neighborhood meetings or smaller group meetings that folks want to have with us, and we're just trying to take it all in. I think that Kim and Dave and others have already spoken to the shortcomings of some of the brief presentations and what that format was able to do and not able to do. And so I think that's another really good point, Edward, is that, there wasn't enough context about why we would consider such an idea. And I think, for those who are listening who haven't watched the video, we're trying to think about the balance of people entering and exiting into the area and kind of how they will flow the best and present the fewest conflicts. Now we've heard loud and clear, and I know Jim Goddard is on here, and I want to recognize the Sharks for giving us a lot of very constructive input, quite honestly, about how important that exit is for legibility, which is a really important factor too for the area. And so we're kind of taking it all in, but appreciate the comment, and please keep them coming.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Bill, I see your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I guess I've got a question about the
Bill,
survey.
Sorry, if you could remind folks who you are and who you represent, that'd be great.
Oh, thank you. Bill Souders, Downtown Residents Association. And I guess I'm a little bit surprised at the data that show that people are very excited about the light rail upgrades, but I don't know what those could possibly be. So maybe just a quick comment there. We just agreed to spend $500 million for a 2-mile extension to Eastridge. So I can't imagine we can afford to do much more. And the second thing is kind of related to the 87 interchange. I just painstakingly went through an EIR for traffic flow around the corner of Almaden Boulevard and Santa Clara. And one building alone is going to add 2,500 cars per day to that intersection right there at 87. So these two things, number one, the light rail doesn't sound like there's much that could happen. And I'm just extremely concerned about traffic flow in general, especially with so little planning or modeling that's been done to this point. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Also, for SOG members, I'm going to remind you to please, if you can, turn on your videos before you start talking, just so folks could see you. No problem, Bill. But Jessica, did you have any response or suggestion?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a good opportunity to talk about Bill's question about what are the light rail improvements, and I know Melissa from VTA is here too, and we're trying to understand what would make a meaningful difference in the light rail travel times through the downtown, particularly between the Diridon station, the core of downtown, and then kind of in either direction to Campbell or to North San Jose, and beyond that to Mountain View. So we're definitely in that period of exploration, but the fundamental challenge that we're trying to address is that it is today faster to bike from Diridon Station to the downtown light rail than it is to take light rail from Diridon Station to the downtown transit mall light rail stations. And so we are exploring with VTA kind of what it could look like and what kind of cost it would entail to take light rail on a different path that is less circuitous, either at grade or underground. So it's very early exploration, but that's the goal. There are some other lower cost ways of speeding up light rail that we're also certainly open to considering. But the aspiration is to have it be faster to take transit than it is today for sure, and then it is to get around by other modes, especially something like light rail that is grade separated. So thank you for the question, Bill, and for the thoughts on the 87 off ramp as well.
Great. Thank you, Jess. Nate, I see your hand back up. Should we give it another go?
Thanks, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Sorry about that. The last thing I want to do is waste anyone's evening.
No problem.
So my name is Nate LeBlanc. I work at the San Jose Downtown Association, and I have kind of a two-part comment. The first is, for what it's worth, I actually liked the videos and having time to sit with them and watch them a couple of times and consider them and then respond to them in writing. However, some of the information contained in the videos, in particular the stuff about the 87 closure, got kind of a viscerally negative reaction among our members and the people that we circulated them to. And so I just want to take this opportunity, and I know it's been touched upon earlier, that we feel like it got out a little bit ahead, and we know that you're doing a comprehensive circulation study now, but we really feel like it might be better, and we would prefer, for what it's worth, as a stakeholder who represents a lot of businesses and people who use the downtown area on a daily basis, to complete that study and use the data and the findings and then make proposals based on that. I feel like we got a little bit ahead of our skis on that one, or over. I don't ski, but I'm trying to use the metaphor. I think you guys get what I'm saying. So we had an initial interview on the circulation study. Not sure what happened to that. The whole world changed while we were doing that. We remain ready, willing, and able to complete that process with you guys, but we have to say in the strongest terms that everyone we talked to hated that idea. So I know that's not super constructive, but just want to express it.
Thank you, Nate. Point taken.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you for that. Norma, welcome. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Norma Camacho with Valley Water. And one thing I did want to note, as an organization of about 800 employees, when COVID-19 hit, we had maybe less than 10 people that were teleworking. And now we have 400 working strong teleworking, and teleworking is going to become a much more standard part of our operation. So when you develop these transportation plans, are you going to look at that fundamental change and how people are doing business now? And how are you going to interject that? Because we don't know when the end of COVID-19 is going to be. And even if it does end, we don't know if people are going to want to go back to how we used to do business before. I know that we as an organization aren't going to be doing that. We're going to look at doing business a different way. So we're just wondering, how are you going to take that into account into this planning process?
Yeah, what a great question. And I think if we knew the answer, we'd be ahead of the rest of the world. But I think it's one of the things that we're trying to consider as potential scenarios, essentially. The planning work, the modeling work, the environmental related work, that will continue to be done based on some fairly conservative assumptions, because we don't know the duration or the extent of the changes. So all of the traffic data, et cetera, will be pretty aggressive in terms of how many people are still out on the streets using the roadways, walking, using transit, et cetera. But I think we all need to take this as the potential profound change that it is, especially around telecommuting and what that could mean for cleaner air, carbon emissions, et cetera. And kind of, we're trying to think of it as scenario plans at this point because of the uncertainty, both with this current disease, but also with the longer trends towards occupying space as employees, et cetera, right? So that's the best thing we can think about doing with that, but I would welcome any further thoughts on how to perform that. And great minds help us move forward.
Great. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Jess. Yes, Reginald, I see you raising your hand. Reginald, before you get started, I just want to say I love the room that you're sitting in with all those instruments. And I think I have that same exact drum set in my studio. So we'll have to jam sometime for sure.
We talked about that. I think that a lot of these companies, a couple of our clients are rethinking space for their employees. And I'm wondering, do we have a contingency for Google and or all the projected projects to shift from office space to housing space? And we know some of that thinking is going on with many of our clients on some of these bigger projects. So do we have a contingency for that?
Well, I could take a stab at that. I mean, we are looking in the DSAP land use planning, we're looking to introduce greater flexibility so that there would be the opportunity for more sites to go to either housing or office. So that's one way we're trying to build that flexibility in.
Dave, you're on mute.
That was embarrassing. I was asking you to unmute yourself, Sandra, while I was on mute. That was great. All right.
Waiting for instruction.
You are up.
Sandra Weber, Plant 51. In real estate, as well as with my husband's job, he's with one of the big companies. And in the beginning, of course, we did think that commercial space would kind of decrease in the need. But now that they're talking about going back to work, it's actually increasing because of the amount of space needed between people. So just keep that in consideration when thinking, it might not indeed. Yes, some people may be working from home, but others, commercial space may become even more valuable.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you for that note, Sandra. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, comments on this topic, we're going to go ahead and now move forward to the next segment. And there we go, screen shared. Matt, you are back on.
Thank you, Dave. Just want to say I really appreciate all the comments and this whole question of how do we think about the future when we're in the situation we're in now is so critical. And so the comments coming up are great because as a planner who thinks about this every day, I'm constantly getting new ideas. So thank you all, and hopefully at least with that piece we can keep that conversation going about what it means.
Hey Matt, sorry for the interruption. It looks like Harvey had a late hand raised. Do you have a final comment, Harvey, before we move forward?
Yes, I do. The DANG members had a meeting with DOT, and I pointed out to them, one of my concerns is that in the central area, particularly in the Google area, as we change the streets, I want everyone on the SOG to understand one of my concerns beyond just the DANG members. I've discovered that when the Sharks are in session or having any kind of event at the arena, there is no ability for me to come down Autumn and go to the Whole Foods on Santa Clara. So I want to make sure that as we begin to add, 15 to 20,000 new residents, 15 to 20,000 new jobs, and hopefully some of them will be in public transport, but an awful lot of them will be in cars. We need enough throughput in that central area to make sure that we can get from, for example, south in Willow Glen, or from the Shasta-Henshaw area to the new area as well.
Great. Thank you, Harvey. Thank you for that note. And one thing I forgot to mention just real quick, obviously when we're together, we have a flip chart up and you see us actively taking those notes, or we're on our computers. Rest assured that is definitely happening concurrently. Our team is taking all this information, putting it in a Google sheet that will be shared out with city staff, and we'll prepare a summary from. So I just want to note that I know you don't see us actively doing it, but that is happening. Kevin, looks like you have your hand raised. Is this back on the transportation topic as well? Oh, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I just wanted to, Kevin Chrisman,
thank you,
Garden Neighborhood Association. I just wanted to make sure that you insert here the comments that I made earlier about the bird overpass at 280 and the safer accessibility for all our children. So all those comments that I made maybe a little bit too soon, put it in here with transportation because it's very relevant.
Sounds great. Will do, Kevin. Thanks for the
Thank you.
reminder. Thank you. Sandra, I see your hand raised.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Sandra Weber, Plant 51. Just again, piggybacking on what Harvey said, this has to do with transportation, of course. With the, I watched again, that video was really well done, Department of Transportation. And then towards the end, I got to, okay, they reiterated that San Fernando pathway, that east-west, that would run right by our building if it was directly cut through, that we would just really love to see more details. What does that look like with the biking and the flow of that? So it tends to end at that boundary. If you could just continue it on a little bit our way, just so we can see more details.
Thank you, Sandra. If nobody minds, I'd also offer that Laura Winter has also brought up, questions about the details really matter, especially for people who live right there. And so we, the opportunity for those who haven't been following it closely to kind of raise the tracks, raise the stations, has a bike ped connection opportunity along San Fernando under that raised station and raised tracks. And good questions from Sandra just now, and also from Laura about how to make sure that that is well integrated with Cahill Park, rather than bifurcating the park as it could do if poorly designed. And so that's really great feedback that just maybe should be on the record here too, and that we're really considering. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Edward, I see your hand raised.
This time I'll remember to say Edward Sound with the Shasta-Henshaw Park Neighborhood Association. Two other brief things. One, in the transportation presentation, the imagery, et cetera, of the disc was what the imagery we had seen previously. And when, it seems like somebody's not muted, so there's some feedback. But when Dang met with DOT, we asked about some way to enhance the ability of people at the Shark Tank to get across Santa Clara. And the response was basically that any kind of a raised platform or anything other than just at surface where all that additional traffic and all the pedestrians would continue to interact was just that this is what it's going to be. And the related thing, as you can see behind me, the DISC and the Downtown West projects, their interpretation of what will become of Girardin Station are mutually exclusive. DISC has the National Register for Historic Places and City Landmark Girardin Station disappearing, and the Google Downtown West project has a primary open plaza right in front of the station. So how all those forms of transportation interact, very clearly it's of two different minds. So somehow those need to come together. Otherwise we'll have two plans that are mutually exclusive.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank
Jess,
you.
did you have follow-up on that?
Sure. I think Edward brought up that point in the meeting we had with Dang, and it's a very good one. I think that the station needs to work today all the way through to hopefully when there is an expanded station that can serve more people. The detailed design of the future station is very far from complete. We have kind of these fundamental decisions about elevating the track, about having concourse station entrances on the north side and on the south side. And those are very important, but they're far from all the details. And one of the things that we shared with the Dang is that in order to make the station work over time, we are exploring with the DISC partners the more precise location and options for that southern concourse, because perhaps one of the things that make it work over time is being kind of between the current entrance and the and San Fernando Street, not necessarily right at San Fernando Street or right at where it is today. So that's something that the urban design team for DISC is working at. And one other thing, I think we all share a real appreciation for today's station and the DISC work to date that has led to a belief that we probably need to move it or repurpose it comes from the additional train tracks that will be needed to occur at the station. And so the work on how to hopefully reintegrate the historic depot into either the future station or the surrounding area, that is work that we expect to take on as the DISC process continues, hopefully in the near future, so we can give you more satisfactory answers about all of that.
Great, thanks so much, Jess. We'll take one more comment here from Laura. I just want to remind you all, we do have 2 more sections to cover, both on parks and the housing piece before we open it up for public comment. So thank you all for your patience. Laura, you're up.
Thanks, Dave. Laura Winter from the St. Leo's neighborhood. I wanted to thank Jess for her comments and just let everyone know that we've had very good conversations with DOT. We're all very concerned about how the extension of San Fernando Street on the west side of the station is going to work. There's a lot of really deep details that need to be worked out, but we're very excited to work with DOT and talk about what it means to our neighborhood and get something that works for everyone. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Laura. Okay, with that, we're going to transition back to the presentation, and Matt, you're up.
Okay, thank you. So again, Matt Ramey, Ramey and Associates. So now we're going to move into the community services and facilities and parks, recreation, and open space. A lot of title here for this topic. So the 2014 DSAP did identify a diversity of community services and facilities and a broad open space concept with distributed open spaces and interconnected with walkways and paseos. There is some information that actually has changed since the DSAP was adopted in 2014. The DSAP had more of a concept of sort of larger suburban parks, but those are now, the shift is moving more towards urban parks, especially with the amount of development that's happening, or the potential for development in a much more urban area. There was, I know, also a conversation about whether Los Gatos Creek should be daylighted, and that is not feasible at this time. The DSAP amendments have a projected parkland goal of 62 acres of land or equivalent recreational amenities. And this is going to be both through land dedication in lieu fee and then recreational improvements to the existing facilities. The key priorities identified during the process and in the plan are to identify trail alignment, preferred trail alignment and open spaces to complete the Los Gatos Creek Trail, create a network of small interconnected parks and open spaces. There are also conversations about the community facilities and services, really focusing on a centralized community center or a community center of the future with multiple services and different types of spaces. There's an emphasis on providing programs and services that focus on job training, continuing education, and access to opportunity. And the idea is that this centralized community center would help to bridge the gap for people to move into higher paying, higher wage jobs, to continue their education and to make sure that there's a greater access to opportunity. The focus of the survey was actually not on parks and open space, but really on the community services and facilities and outstanding questions around that. So the question was asked about considering the planned growth in the downtown, which programs are people most interested in seeing in the Diridon Station area. The results that you can see here, Art Center, auditorium, and after-school programs and community meeting space were at the highest. Fitness center, gym, high-tech, and digital literacy programs in preschool were towards the bottom of the results. I think one of the other really interesting results came not from the numeric checking of the boxes here, but the additional comments that came from the open-ended questions. And one really important point that came through was that the open spaces in the DSAP need to be safe and designed to be safe, and also programmed so that there are people using those spaces for a large portion of the day, which also enhances safety. And I think about 1/6 of the people who responded to the survey made some comment about safety and open spaces. So a really important point that came through here, not surprising, but important nonetheless. There are also lots of comments about improving and connecting the Guadalupe River Trail to Los Gatos Creek, and then having flexible community meeting spaces for community groups, for nonprofits, and others, and so that people would really see the community center as a place for lots of different types of activities to happen, knowing that the community meeting spaces in this area are very limited. And our team knows that firsthand as we've tried to find meetings for our workshops and other meetings in the Diridon Station area. So we would have loved a great community meeting space that holds 200 people in this area. So I know we are supportive of that. I think moving, then we had actually next slide, please, Dave.
Do you want to mention the SOG piece as well? Just their top three. Did you already mention that, Matt? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks. The top three from the SOG was the community meeting space, the employment services one-stop center, and preschool space. And so, Dave, thanks for reminding me of this. The results from the SOG actually came back a little different than what the other 600 or so community members said relative to this. So again, just an important point. The other topics had been pretty much in line, but this was a little different. There was a question about whether about people's reaction to the community center in the Diridon Station area, and a lot of people said that they thought it was a good idea, but they're not sure they would use it. Followed by, it sounds like something that they liked and people would use. Only 15% said that they didn't like the idea at all. So it seems that there is support for a community center in this area, and I certainly think it's worth digging into the comment previously about the existing community center in the neighborhood and the status of that, concurrent with a potential new center in the Diridon Station area. So I want to bring up that point as we did this. So now we can move to questions and comments on the topic. And again, apologies, there's so much information here, and we're trying to just hit some of the highlights.
Great, thank you, Matt. We've already heard some great comments from you all on open space. This is an opportunity to kind of delve in a little deeper. Harvey, I see your hand raised, so you are up.
Thank you. Just want to point
again, Harvey, sorry.
Harvey Darnell, North Wilton Neighborhood Association, and also a general plan update task force member, all the way back to 2005. So the question I have is, we looked at this plan. First of all, your survey didn't talk about open space. And I want to know why you didn't even list that as one of the questions that you were trying to parse the community support for it. I think that's a fundamental, since it is, parks, recreation, neighborhood services. Parks is the first thing in PRNS. You didn't talk about that, and you didn't ask about that, what the community wants. I'm concerned that if we spend an awful lot of our park fees on a community center, that we're going to be in the same position that we were when we spent $6 million of Measure P funds, built a center in Gardner neighborhood, and then when the city ran out of money, we didn't have O&M, operation and management fees to keep the center going, and we had to reuse it, and as we called it that day, and now we're calling it partner group. But it doesn't sound to me like a good solution. I'm more concerned about, in the presentation that we saw a couple of months ago, that, and I've said this to PRNS directly, so I apologize. I hope I don't offend you, but I really want to reiterate this to the whole group, that what you did was say, we need somewhere between 60 and 70 acres of parkland, and clearly we can't do that in this area. Well, I want to know, what is the minimum that you're willing as a city to do? We need open space. We found out in this whole COVID thing going on, I saw on Nextdoor high-rise residents complaining about the fact that they had no place to take their dogs for a walk to defecate. There were no parks that were open, and putting in large numbers of high-rise and high-density housing, we're going to need to produce more than more acreage than is being proposed. The other thing that
Harvey, do you want to let folks respond to your comments, or do you have one more thought? Sorry, go ahead.
All right, I have a couple more thoughts. So the question is, are we abandoning the 3.5 acres per 1,000 residents? And then the other thing is, I saw in the Google plans a lot of open space being in the riparian corridor or just outside the riparian corridor. That doesn't make for good urban uses, because in the riparian corridor, uses are limited. Let's see. Good response. I probably have one more. Oh, yes, I have one more thing. In the Midtown specific plan adopted in 1992, we were promised as a community, the Midtown area was promised that when the fire training center was abandoned for fire use, that it would be turned into a large park. And I see no attempt to find any kind of land anywhere in this area. And the second promise that we were made was that if we build them high and build them dense, it'll leave a lot more open space between buildings that we could utilize for park space.
Appreciate it, Harvey. Yeah, let's let the team respond. And again, we're here to have this great discussion, and we want to allow you all an opportunity to provide your input. But if we can please, just for the sake of time and everyone's time and interest in staying focused here with our discussion, that would be great, and the questions and topics you're asking. But I appreciate that, Harvey. Nicole, did you want to respond to any of that?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. And I'll also say, I know since we are running a little bit short on time, people certainly are welcome to reach out to me. And I know a number of people have. I'm happy to talk through these independently if you don't get to ask questions tonight. I'm Nicole Burnham. I'm a deputy director with the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, and I oversee our capital programs. So I wrote all my notes, Harvey, so I'm going to try to get through them one by one. Your point about no open space in the survey is a good one. It's an interesting one. I think from our perspective, we assume it's somewhat of a given that there's going to be open space here and there will be parks. And they're going to be urban in form given the nature of the existing development and the proposed development. So it wasn't to slight parks that we didn't ask about it. It just seemed like the community center was a concept on which we really wanted feedback and needed a deep level of engagement on, because we knew it was unusual and we wanted to hear from the community. The presentation, and I want to make sure this is really clear, the presentation doesn't talk about using park fees to pay for the community center. Right? The presentation was intended to just ask the question about community centers. You know, we have a service level goal of 500 square feet of service level per 1,000 residents. So, and in a growing city, so we need about 500,000 square feet of community center space now, and we're about at that. It bounces up and down as we convert properties to different uses, but we also recognize that as a growing city, there will be future need. And we do serve a need in this community. Our recreation centers are really important in providing equitable services, making sure people have access to a variety of services, whether it's childcare, digital literacy, after-school programs, teen programs. And frankly, I don't know what exactly the programming would be in a facility downtown, because we would tailor the facility to the demographics of the community that it's serving, right? One of the things we find in our existing spaces is we didn't design them with enough flexibility. So new spaces, we would look for more flexibility in design so we can modify their uses over time and convert them. But in terms of existing community center space, we have Gardner, which is a neighborhood center that really does a nice job of serving that Gardner neighborhood. That's the neighborhood it was intended to serve. And we have Roosevelt as a major hub center on 21st Street, and Bascom out on Southwest Expressway area. So there's really nothing in this downtown area and in north into the Rose Garden area. So we really wanted to explore this with the community, because we really see this, we see it as a need, and it's going to be a growing need. So that was the reason, but again, let me just reiterate this, we did not say in that presentation, we're talking about using park fees to pay for a community center. We were silent on the topic of how it would get paid for, because I think there's a lot of potential options there. So I want to make sure that's, because that's one nuance that definitely was lost in an online presentation. And we do recognize that we have challenges with staffing. You questioned that, Harvey. We understand that. We recognize that. I'm not going to tell you that it's a riddle we've solved. It's something that we as a department talk a lot about. We have some plans in the works and some ideas going forward, but we need to find some long-term solutions for that. We recognize it as a problem. It's not going to get solved through this specific project, but we also don't believe that means we shouldn't plan for that in the future. The 3 to 5 acres, 3.5 acres per 1,000 residents. That is not a goal that we've abandoned. Quimby calls the 3 acres per 1,000. Our general plan calls 3.5 acres per 1,000. One of the interesting nuances that happens when you start to look at park mapping in the city is where that acreage is located becomes critically important. In this specific area, even without proposed parks in the DSAP, we actually have a fairly well-served park system. The Arena Green, Discovery Meadow, Guadalupe River Trail, Guadalupe River Park system actually has a lot of parkland and not enough density. So yes, we definitely want to add parkland as part of the Dearden area plan. But if we only want to look at a metric of 3.5 acres per 1,000 residents, we already meet that in this area. So then we start digging a little deeper into things like 10-minute walk criteria. Where is that open space located? Where is it located in context of existing population? Where will it be located in context of proposed population? Not only the proposed population through the Dearden West project, but also existing and proposed population that may be limited by barriers like the trade tracks. So when you start looking at that kind of criteria, it puts a little bit of a different lens, and we are working through that right now and looking at that in more detail. I hear you about open space in the riparian corridor. And And I hear you about the Midtown specific plan, but, you know, we recognize that. You know, I'm familiar with the plan. I understand that it called for that. The city no longer owns that property, and so it's an issue we're working to navigate. But the idea that we might find 5 acres of one contiguous 5-acre parcel in the Diridon area may be challenging. And so we're looking at alternatives and evaluating that.
Well, even 2 acre would be appreciated.
And that it probably is viable, right? And there are sites like that we're looking at. So,
Great.
answer, but there were a lot of questions in there.
I
It's a tough customer.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Nicole. And as we mentioned earlier, there'll be definite follow-up to this. Again, I appreciate all your time, and this is a marathon here of a Zoom meeting. We have technically about 20 minutes left on the schedule, but we're happy to stay because we want to make sure that public is also allowed to speak. And I just want to give other folks some space as well. Kiyomi, Michelle, Melissa, Maria, Ernst, if you have any comments, please feel free to throw those in the mix as well. We want to make sure all perspectives are represented here. But with that, Kevin, Kathy, and Edward, I see your hands raised. You are up first, Kevin, if we can keep some focused comments here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Kevin Chrisman, Gardner Neighborhood Association, nailed it. Okay. On the survey, it showed that 40% of the people wanted an art center. Well, let's point out that we do have an art room over at Gardner, and we even have a ceramics room that is not in use anymore because we can't get to it. The reuse has not worked out very well with that. What has worked out very well is we do have a pool that we would be more than happy to share with the surrounding neighborhoods, and they have an excellent reuse group running that. I don't know, Nicole, if you made it a Freudian slip or not, but I was taking some notes, and I've always called it a community center, and you called it a recreation center, and that might have been a Freudian slip because it really doesn't belong to the community anymore. It's never open. It's almost like an activities center for the city of San Jose because it doesn't work very well for us. I don't get the whole point of having a room for 200 people over there when you could get probably Google to open up one of their rooms for a meeting, or if you want to be really glib about it, what's SAP doing over there? They could certainly house a fairly good sized meeting even in one of their spaces other than the arena. So
Kevin, should we give her a chance to respond to that? Could we give Nicole a chance to respond?
Yeah.
Great. Nicole, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry. And those are all great points and comments, things we've thought about and that we're willing to talk about and explore. Certainly no solutions at this point. I mean, I can't commit Google's space to things that aren't Google. So, but it's an interesting point, definitely.
Thank you. Kathy, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Kathy from Domus Park. I was also wondering about Google as a community space. I know that I've been to events at Adobe, Ernst. Adobe does open up their site for community events, which is always lovely. In addition to that, though, I saw a map that shows park space over an acre at the north end, kind of like behind Target. And I also saw where the residential is located at the south end. And my question is why would the park space, and this was Google's, be situated adjacent to a commercial building instead of where you need it, which is where people live?
Mm-hmm. And the mapping you've seen is probably a part of the Google application. It is, they do have a proposal for more than one park north of SAP. but the area up there is actually mixed use. It's not near the Target. First of all, it's more closer to Julian Street. It's not that far north. They don't own that far north.
It was by the train tracks.
Yeah, yep. And but that area is called for mixed use and hotel space and a variety of uses. But I also think there's need for park space around office buildings as well. You know, and that the opportunity to get out of an office during the day and use park space isn't necessarily a negative thing. So the balance of parks spread throughout the development, I think, is an important idea and an important consideration.
But that's also where the trail is super wide for the Guadalupe, right?
Well, the proposed parks, because Google owns to the west of SAP, whereas Guadalupe is east of SAP. So the wide area of trail is actually.
Well, and actually my thought was that you're going to be, you can rebuild roads, right? So is there,
maybe when I can talk, it would be helpful for me to talk to you about that offline. And look, could we do that?
Sure.
Yeah,
thank you.
Sounds great. That sounds great. Thanks all. We're going to take one more comment here, then move on to the last segment for housing. Edward, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Kathy, for addressing that. I can skip that. During this whole process, we've talked about a need to kind of think out of the box and think collaboratively. The San Jose Water Company building right there on Santa Clara, that was originally part of the hashtag Diridon project, which, as we know, Trammell Crow put forward as kind of a canary in the coal mine for Google. Google has more than once pointed out that they want to create some kind of a community space there. So let's think creatively, and whatever kind of community center we're talking about, let's make that a public-private partnership there rather than dedicating funds and resources that might be put into something else. And on a related note, and everybody at the city knows that kind of the issue isn't capital expenditures. It's getting the city to commit to long-term funding for maintenance and operations. And those are the things that are far too often fall through the cracks. And then 5 years later, it's, oh, we had this, but we don't anymore. So kind of being aware of those things so we're not just thinking short-term and traditional methodologies. This is too big of a project to not get more creative with those solutions.
Appreciate that, Edward. Thank you. So with that, we're going to move on to the final piece here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Matt, and then we'll have a final SOG discussion. And thank you all, members of the public, for hanging on with us. I see hands raised. We're going to move to public comment right after that, and give you all a chance to contribute. So Matt, you're up.
All right, thank you all again. Matt Ramey Associates. This is our final section on affordable housing and community benefits. As you all know, the SOG has spent quite a bit of time over the last 2 years talking about these topics. And so this is a continuation of that discussion. The concept of needing affordable housing, making sure that the Google project and any project that comes in produces really tangible community benefits came through loud and clear from the SOG process as well as the community engagement process. There's a need to protect residents from displacement, overcrowding, and from becoming homeless. And then, of course, the sort of the larger issues of job training and educational opportunity, which can have impacts as well. And so there is interest in establishing a community stabilization fund to help reduce displacement throughout San Jose. And there is, as Nancy talked about earlier, the city anticipates, this is a really important point, that most of the community benefits, through the development agreement will be for these 3 bullets listed above. And so there already is a really strong need for these. There's a strong preference for them, and this is really in the works already. And so some of these questions that we're going to get to next, we're trying to hone in, not on whether these are important, not on whether these 3 are important topics, because we all know that they are, but to really have a little bit more nuance about what it means and how we can really maximize those benefits. So I want to be clear as we're jumping into that, that it's not reopening, that really the majority of community benefits money is going to these 3 areas. So the first question asked about if there's a limited amount of subsidy available for affordable housing, what is more important? Is it more important to provide fewer units, but for extremely low and very low income households? And this would happen because the amount of subsidy required per unit is higher. It increases as the income level goes down for the target unit? Or is it better to provide a diversity of affordability types and potentially get more units as a result of that? If the amount of funds is similar, there's an identical, there's a question about how you actually allocate that towards different affordability levels. And so the answers are really shown here. We gave 5 steps in the overall about where people kind of felt on this, and there was a preference from the public leaning towards having more affordable units at various income levels rather than necessarily just focusing on more extremely low income households. The SOG was neutral, so the SOG was, I guess, a little bit more towards having fewer units and extremely low household income levels. The next was a question of whether people preferred having all of the affordable housing obligation occur in the Diridon station area, or whether there could be units outside of the Diridon station area. And one of the reasons for that is that the land cost is cheaper outside of the Diridon station area. So again, you might be able to get more units, and you'd also be able to spread the affordable housing throughout the city a little bit more. And it was really a 2-to-1 that said that developers should be able to build their affordable housing outside of the Diridon station area. The survey was not specific about where or how far or anything. So again, it's beginning to point in a direction. It's another data point. Next, please. The next question is about displacement prevention, and this question asked respondents to rank their preferences for using funds, community stabilization funds, for different types of strategies. And so the 5 areas were preserving existing affordable housing, building new affordable housing, expanding homeless prevention services, investing in a community-based ownership project, or expanding shelters and services for residents experiencing homelessness. And the, looking at the results, they're actually really pretty close all across the board, with a few a little bit higher, but there's really a lot of a sort of parallel here. And the SOG, the comments were the preserve existing affordable housing, build new affordable housing, and invest in a community-based ownership project. So only slightly different from what the public had said. The next question was about job training and education, and people were asked to rank the following ideas in the order that's most important for increasing job training and educational opportunities. Unlike the previous one, there were really differences here in terms of the potential strategies, with the top 3 being funding for early childhood programs, funding for K through 12 programs to enhance STEM and career exploration, and then scholarships to attend college. Lower down on the list was job training and to create an employment services one-stop center. The SOG identified their top 3 priorities as job training, funding for job experience programs, and then funding for early childhood programs. So again, here there was a little bit of a difference between the members of the SOG and the 600 members of the public, but not a huge difference. Next. The last was, if there is funding left over after those 3 primary community benefits have been identified, what's the most important areas where the funds should go. So there's a recognition here that, first, that the funds are limited for community benefits, and second, that those three are the top priorities. But hopefully there still is money available to do other things. And so the order in terms of preference was support for nonprofit and cultural organizations as the top, followed by small business support. Following that was increased access to cities' recreational programs and activities, and then enhanced maintenance of existing parks and open space. And finally followed by support for public art and local artists. And so again, this is not that these are not important overall, because we saw that art space with the community center actually ranked really high in the survey. It was the question of, if there's funds left over from the other three primary community benefits, what should they be used for? And so that was the ranking that we had here. Okay, that was the end of this section. Again, just want to reiterate that it really is about this really was about honing in on some of the outstanding questions.
Great. Thank you, Matt. We're going to move right into the discussion. And Jeffrey, I see your hand raised. If you'd like to unmute yourself and let us know name, organization. Thank you.
Jeffrey Buchanan, Working Partnerships USA. Obviously it's unfortunate we didn't see as wide a participation in this survey, but appreciate the approach in the survey. Certainly, when we've done our own survey work, we saw strong support for investing in anti-displacement, investing in affordable housing, these kind of quality job issues. And so appreciate the staff focus in this section on those issues. Would be interested in terms of the Community Stabilization Fund. I know it's a topic I think there's been some discussion of, but would be interested to hear a little bit more from staff on their initial thoughts. I do like the idea of trying to think about, rather than a rush to figure out every project between now and March, to be able to have more time to be a little intentional about things. So I think a fund is interesting, but then it also raises questions about how, for what, and how decisions get made. So interested to hear kind of if there's anything that can be shared on what the initial thinking is around that fund. But appreciate the work by staff on this.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Kristen or city staff team want to respond to that?
I think that, oh, go ahead, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen Clements with the Housing Department. I was just going to say that there's been discussion about a community fund with the uses kind of similar to what was named there as priorities, for affordable housing, some development, some potentially for preservation, some potentially for protection activities. I think the actual uses is still to be determined. And, I know Kim and Nancy and Jackie Morales-Friend, my director of housing, have been, most involved in those conversations. So I didn't know if anyone wanted to join in on that.
Kim, would you like to add to that?
No, I just would think it was from listening deeply to the community that we came up with those 5 areas to test. And so we were kind of trying to see, are those kind of the 5 areas where if you had a community stabilization fund that you might sort of scope it, or is there maybe a narrower set? But the only idea on the table at this time is, the project's going to happen over a long period of time. And the needs to invest the resources could change from year to year. So like you said, Jeffrey, rather than sort of being really specific up front, maybe there's a mechanism that we create and a general scope, and then some sense of how would the decision making happen from year to year. So that's the concept at this point. That's how it's done in some other communities as well.
Great. Thanks, you all. I see Kiyomi's hand raised. I haven't heard from her yet. Then I'm going to come to you, Reginald, and then we'll go to David. So Kiyomi, you're up if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Kiyomi, policy attorney with the Law Foundation. Just kind of following up on Jeffrey's question, is how, what are so I know that we're still kind of in the exploratory phase around the community stabilization fund. What's kind of the best way to, for us to follow that process, and for us to, and a lot for the community leaders to provide input, just so that, is it just the SOG process? How do we kind of check in on that? And then secondarily, are you thinking that this potential fund is going to, or how is this potential fund going to be working with some of the other housing, policies and programs that you have going on right now?
Thank you, Kiyomi. Who would like to take the first stab at that? Kim?
I mean, on the first question, yeah, we'd be happy to meet with you, any organizations or individuals that have further thoughts and ideas on this. We've had a lot of conversations, and we're just always happy to have more. So we can certainly meet and talk outside of the SAG meetings. The second question, I'm going to toss to Jackie.
And I guess this is Jackie Morales, the housing director. And, we have multiple documents that are coming out. We have the anti-displacement plan that's going to be coming before the council in August. And we're going to be listening for, what are the policy pieces and issues that rise to the top. We're working on an affordable housing plan for this area. And that would be another place that we could take public input. And again, just meeting with people who would want to continue to express concerns and interests in this area.
Thank you, Jackie. We're going to go to Reginald and then to David. Reginald, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that we are conscious of, Kim's introduction to opening to us tonight is cognizant of some of the racial divide between how we see these processes in our institution. And many of the people that will take this survey are people like you, guys, people that has homeowners, that's not pressed, that's not in need of some of these services. And we end up talking a lot about the parks and open space and stuff. But many of the people that don't respond to these type surveys are working very hard, and they don't make the shift to being civically proactive because they are trying to exist, right? And so their voices many times are not heard or they don't get to weigh in on these things. And I think that's why some of our data can easily be skewed. So I think there needs to be a deliberate reach, and Kim's statement about things will probably shift over time. But there are some initial things that we probably, especially around housing and early childhood education, all those issues that came up, and this community stabilization fund. There needs to be some more outreach so people can really speak to this. Because I don't think we got the right answers quite yet. Right? We might be close. This might be the exact right answers. But I don't think enough people responded for us to know, to have a good sense of how they feel, especially about these life situations.
Right.
That's a great point, Reginald. Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
And I just wanted to respond to that because
sure.
That was one of the reasons I said that the housing department would take into consideration the multiple initiatives that we've been engaged in. And so we did extensive community outreach for our anti-displacement project, where we had community groups facilitate meetings that we were invited to. We did not actually have our standard meetings because frankly, you're right, nobody was coming to them. Because they didn't want to, it wasn't a way that was effective in outreaching to especially renter communities who didn't have the time or weren't connected to the city in these ways. So we did do very extensive outreach, and frankly, that work was based on resident perspective. We started our work. We were very, very fortunate to have a grant with PolicyLink, and we had partnerships with outside community groups. And all of that work was centered around community. That's how it started. We're doing some more extensive outreach on our fair housing side. And so I absolutely agree with you. We have to find better ways to engage people who don't normally participate because their voices will not be heard. And we will continue to do that work as we look at housing options.
I'll talk to you guys about that, like I said.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Reginald. Okay, we're going to move to David next.
Thanks very much, David Meyer from Silicon Valley at Home. One small follow-up question, then a couple of quick comments. My quick follow-up for Jackie was if there's any thinking about when the timing of especially the housing strategy for the whole DSAP, if there's a time targeted for that. And then just real quickly, a couple things. One, I just want to say that we really appreciate that one of the things that's came out with the latest staff work and analysis is that we really thank Tim and his team for really thinking big on housing in the station area generally, because I think that one of the key factors of how we're going to get a lot of affordable housing in the area and actually get to 25%, this 25% requirement, if we have more units that we're trying to get in there, you know, the goal is set higher for how much affordable housing that we're going to create. And so I really appreciate the city for thinking big there. The other thing I do want to say is that I appreciate that some of the questions related to how do you prioritize funding for different types of affordable housing. It's a tough question that the city was posing in these surveys, and I think it's great that you guys are posing those questions, because they're really important when we're talking about limited resources. And I think that I'm hoping that, you know, as we kind of go through and hear more about kind of the city's approach, I know that the city is constructing its affordable housing strategy, be looking at all the different tools that they have to create different levels of affordable housing, whether it's extremely low income housing, which we need a heck of a lot more of, or if it's looking at inclusionary housing for low income people. And so I guess I would just say that we know that these trade-offs and questions about resources are real. We appreciate the city is looking at them, and we hope that we'll be looking at, you know, all the different ways that we can not really make these into binary decisions between more units at higher affordability levels or less units at lower affordability levels. But I know that we'll be looking at a mixture of those things, and so we appreciate that. And I think it is really key as we think about the station area itself, that obviously, you know, while we want to be able to create, if we can create more affordable housing outside the station area, that's great. We need more affordable housing outside the station area, but, you know, we're investing a lot of resources in creating a really great area around the station. And when we're talking about questions of equity and who has access to those resources, it's obviously going to be important that we make sure that there is affordable housing that's actually centered in the station area and that's giving people access to those great resources that we're going to be building. So thanks.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that.
So your one question regarding when we anticipate the affordable housing strategy coming out is September is the month we're targeting to begin some community outreach on the plan.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, David. So it looks like we have one more comment from Harvey. Then I've noticed that we are now up to what we anticipated being the end of the meeting, and I greatly appreciate all your patience. I know this has been a long meeting. We definitely want to leave room for public comment coming up next. So Harvey, if you want to unmute yourself. And
I did. Harvey Darnell, North Willow Glen Neighborhood Association. Throughout the SAG process, I've asked multiple times, Google, how many support workers are you going to have? I know you're going to employ up to 20,000 knowledge workers that will have high salaries, but how many support workers will you need, and where will they be housed? Where are we going to have the ELI, VLI, and LI housing, and how can we integrate it in a way with market rate housing so that we don't end up with communities such as when I was in school in St. Louis, we created Pruitt-Igoe, which was torn down. And
let's keep this focused. Sorry.
Okay. And
do you want to let anyone to respond to that? Let the staff
no.
respond.
Let me finish.
Okay.
And
Sure.
also, when I was in Chicago, we created Cabrini Green, which was torn down. So I want to make sure we don't do that. Then I have one other thing that I forgot on parks. It's a quick. I don't want a response. I just want to point something out. The park presentation did not make good connections between the Los Gatos Creek Trail and the Guadalupe River Trail. And I want to make sure that I've abandoned daylighting Los Gatos Creek. Norma showed me all kinds of issues why it could not be done. Leave it in the culvert, but build something parallel that is off street. Right now, what is being proposed is not safe.
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you for that. And again, thank you all so much, members of the SOG, for your time and your input. We greatly appreciate it. And now, very importantly, we're going to move to the public comment section, where, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do typically how it's done at a city council meeting. I do have a little timer. I warn you, I accidentally pulled a 1-minute timer, not knowing how many folks were going to be in attendance and want to give comment. I see 10 folks that would like to share their input, so I'm going to do that timer twice. So give you each 2 minutes to provide your comments. And again, thank you all for sticking with us. So as I noted earlier, the best way to do that, looks like you all have figured that out, is to go ahead and use the raise hand function. We'll see your hand raised, and then I'll go ahead and call your name and unmute you and start the timer. And again, we'll give you each 2 minutes. And then one last note again for those that are calling in, watching this video from afar, this is your chance to also call in and provide your comments. And the meeting ID, which I should have written down. Jennifer, if you're, oh, never mind, I have it here. The meeting ID is 910-628-7722 for those that might want to dial in that way. So with all that, I'm going to go ahead and start. And I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce your name in any way, but I'm going to start with Catherine Hedges. And once you let me know that you could hear us, I'm going to start your timer. You should be able to unmute yourself, Catherine. There you go.
Good evening. Thanks very much. I'm really concerned because one of my friends who was at the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday said that the project has been changed to cut the housing project out on the south end of the project. And why are we cutting housing from the project? This is terrible. I mean, that you're going to replace it with more office space. Why? This is terrible. And apparently all the housing that's left is going to be the market rate housing. How can you do that? Yeah, I mean, did you just decide that since nobody is paying attention to the process during the pandemic and the protests, you're going to cut out the affordable housing? This is terrible. Yield my time. Goodbye.
Thank you, Catherine, for joining us. Next, we have Tom McCarter. You should now be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Tom McCarter, and I'm currently with the YIMBY South Bay, and I am also a former member of the North San Jose Task Force. And when I was on the task force, they showed us a video back then. They showed us a video of First Street looking like Castro Street in Mountain View and asking us, would you like to have this? And everybody said, yeah. And then we got at first instead. I'm just, I'm a little curious about what you're really committed to. You say 25% affordable housing, but the questionnaire may have these two choices. It sounds like not really. Like when we were on the task force, we discovered that developers could pay an extra fee and just not even bother with affordable housing. So, I want to know, what are you really committed to? How come you can't just say to Google 25% or you don't get to build it? And I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Next, we have Ada Marquez. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to comment. I have a few comments and suggestions and questions. First, in regards to the CEQA document, if staff, correct me if I'm wrong, staff suggested that this would require an addendum EIR, and therefore the future projects within the area would require supplemental analyses. However, since he also said that this is part of the downtown strategy EIR, which was completed in 2014, would those future projects in this area be tearing off from the downtown strategy? In addition, the reason I'm asking is because the 2014 downtown strategy EIR does not consider the California 2017 scoping plan, which, as you know, we're trying to achieve our GHG reduction goals for 2030, 2045, and 2050. In addition, the type of CEQA document is a very, very important component, not only because of the public processes, but also the legal requirements. So whether you do an addendum EIR, a supplemental EIR, or a draft EIR, the public's right to the legal process is very distinct. And the public compromises. We don't have the same rights depending on the type of document the city accomplishes or completes, right? So, and the other, my other comment and suggestion has to do with open space and equity. As you know, with COVID, there was a significant closure of city parks. And so because of overcrowding or other reasons, so I think it's very significant to consider in the environmental analyses, and the draft EIR should consider that. In addition, my other last suggestion in regards to outreach to minorities, and as a first-generation Mexican American, expertise in CEQA and knowledge in urban planning, I think when you hire planners who are bilingual, bicultural, you can have a very significant increase of participation because we are bilingual and we understand our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ada. Next, we have Tessa. Tessa, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
All right, I'm going to quote my husband. So I'd really like to take 4 minutes, okay? I know that's a lot. You say you really care about our opinion. You don't, okay? So I'm gonna take 2 minutes for my husband, and I'll start it with what he said, and I'll continue it with what Greta Thunberg is saying. But what my husband, the biologist, said is either it's demolition or it's uncontrolled demolition. And then I will talk to you about what Greta Thunberg says. Okay, so I'm going to read that, and then I want the other 2 minutes for myself. And here's the climate activist, Greta Thunberg, so you can better understand. Here, let me see. Okay, here I have to hit cancel on that and then go here. Understand what she's saying. She's a climate activist. She's 16. She addressed the UN's Climate Action Summit in New York City on Monday. Here's the full transcript of Thunberg's speech, beginning with her response to a question about the message she has for the world leaders. My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. And it's all wrong for so many reasons. And I'll say that in my speech. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us, young people, for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with the empty words. And yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People
Tessa,
Tessa,
I'm sorry, I don't.
Tell me to shut up.
No,
now
no,
you
no, I
tell
don't.
me to shut up.
I don't
And
know,
this
no,
is
I
the
don't want to
problem.
cut you off, but
This
just
is the problem.
respect for.
Yeah. No, okay. I know
Oh,
you
no,
won't listen to this. I
we
know.
will. We will.
Okay,
Tessa,
now
we
I'll
just.
tell you what I think about your whole fucking process. It's bullshit. And I'm quoting another young person,
Tessa,
Emma
we can't have
Garcia
you
Gonzalez.
using
Yeah,
vulgarity.
you
I'm
tell me it's
sorry.
all bullshit. And that's all that it is. That's all this is about. It's bullshit because you're not dealing with climate change. You're not dealing with that. And that is the problem. And you're all sitting around talking about economic growth. And how dare you close the highway? What do you mean? Of course, we have to close the highway. We have a lot of things to do and a lot of things to change. And one of the fucking things you're not changing is you're doing like the city of San Jose. You put us at the end of the fucking meeting.
Tessa, I'm sorry. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot have any vulgarities. Unfortunately, there's probably kids watching this at home and others that we don't want to be offended anymore. So we appreciate the passion. We appreciate your input. There'll be multiple opportunities for you to continue to provide input. So thank you for being a part of this meeting. Next, we're going to move to Lawrence Ames.
Hi. So I'm interested in the, I know that you said the daylight the Los Gatos Creek was not feasible at this time. So I'm kind of wondering when it will be feasible. Don't want to wait another 100 years. What is causing it to be unfeasible? Is it hydrology issues? Is it that there are too many fiber optic cables in the place, or are you requiring overly generous trail clearances? What is the issue? Maybe we can find some engineering solutions to it. I'm glad that you have the Los Gatos Creek Trail as an off-road corridor in there, but the alignment that I've seen is rather joggy, that it comes up to Ozare and then it goes jogging across and then making left turns and right turns, and has many at-grade crossings. So you need to design it so it'll be easy for the trail users to follow it. You don't need another maze like the Guadalupe River Trail. Also, I'll echo Harvey's comments that you need to have a good connection from the Los Gatos Creek Trail to the Guadalupe River Trail. And then also you talked about open space and you mentioned the arena green, and I'm just kind of wondering how much land will still be available to the public after the icon is built there. How much of the land is going to be given over to that icon and how much is left over for the public? Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you so much, Larry. Next, we have Bill Rankin. Bill, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Bill Rankin. I'm president of Save Our Trails and president of the North Willow Glen Neighborhood Association, and also a member of DANG. I've come to understand that a new concept for the design of the southern approach to Diridon Station for the Los Gatos Creek Trail has been introduced. The original idea was that the trail heading north from Ozari would cross under the new railroad bridge on the west side of the creek to continue towards the station. However, that railroad bridge ended up being built lower to the river than expected and would have left the trail underwater for several weeks during the normal ebb and flow of the river during the rainy season. It has been suggested to cross the Los Gatos Creek on Ozari and then follow the river along the east side until it reaches Montgomery. However, in my opinion, this point is moot. With the eventual raising of the railroad tracks to an elevated station platform that DISC has called for, that railroad bridge will need to be removed. I believe the city should take a two-pronged approach to the design of the Los Gatos Creek Trail approaching Diridon from the south. In the short term and until the tracks are raised, I believe the city should do everything in its power to make a safe connection from Ozari to the confluence with the Guadalupe River and its trail system, whether that is on street, bike lanes, or even sidewalks for short distances. There is already a fairly safe connection for pedestrians and bicycles to Diridon Station from Ozari by taking DuPont Street, crossing Park, and taking Laurel Grove Lane to the backside of Diridon. In the long term, the railroad bridge that was built too low for the trail will be removed. I think the city should continue to plan on the trail being on the west side of the creek. I also believe that as the trail approaches Montgomery, the trail should go under Park Avenue because when the station is raised, Park Avenue will be back at grade again. This will allow for a very safe pedestrian bicycle connection to Diridon. I also would like to see the connection made for the Los Gatos Creek Trail between Meridian and Lincoln. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your time. Next, we have Roland. Roland, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you, Roland.
Okay, great. So I'm actually extremely glad to be right behind Bill because I got some great news for you. So we put the shelter in place to good use, and we started working full time on the station. And the first thing we obviously had to do was to lift it, and we lifted it. And then we started resolving all the issues in the north with Santa Clara, and obviously the connection to Bath, which was very important. And I'm glad to tell you all that was resolved. We did that in the April timeframe. And then we turned our attention to the south, and the southern half of the station is now just as important as the northern half. Park is just as important as Santa Clara. And the historical building, this beautiful background behind Edward, nothing's going to happen to that. It's going to be exactly the way it is. Something might happen in the background just behind it, but that's another story. We then started going south, and guess what? We did the great separation for Osirey, and the input Bill is giving us on the Los Gatos Creek Trail is very useful. The one thing we disagree with Bill on is that we believe that the cars will continue to be depressed at park. But now the area that's currently open, used by the tracks, will actually be open space. So people will be walking right across parks without having any interference with traffic. So I got 30 seconds left. So let me just wrap up here. Yes, on phasing, first of all, we'll have a fully working station in the south before we go up north and go and blow everything up. And we are about to share our good work with our friend Jessica at DOT and at Google, and show all these elements tied together. And we're going to be able to show you visualization, actually walking to the station and how the elements tie together. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate your time. Next, we have Sandy Perry. Sandy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sandy Perry. I'm from Affordable Housing Network, and I apologize because I missed the first part of the meeting and I missed whatever Kim had to say. But I did want to comment on the fact that we have been through in the last week or two a little revolution in San Jose with the Black and Brown Lives Matter movement. In the last week or so, there must have been about 1,000 people who testified at city council meetings. 95% of them calling for defunding the police. And I think when we look at this Diridon project, we have to look at it in terms of its equity impact, and we have to have a plan to deal with to deal with the equity issue in relation to it, because what we're talking about, we're bringing in a company with serious racial problems. We're bringing in a company that hires only 2% African American and less than 4% Latino workers. That's an extremely low and problematic number. And what we have to do is guarantee that this project is not going to make equity worse, not going to have an adverse impact on equity, but have a positive. And in order to do that, we have to have an equity framing to this whole thing. And I didn't hear, again, I missed Kim's comments, but I didn't hear it in the general discussion that was taking place in the meeting. In the past, I've talked about housing and homelessness, heard people talk about safety in this service. And again, we can't deal with homeless people in terms of calling the police. That's not an effective strategy. Finally, well, that's what I would call is that we have an equity plan that goes through this entire project. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Sandy. And just to remind everyone, this is being recorded and will be posted to the project website, so you can capture everything that was said throughout the entire meeting there. So with that, we're going to move to Alex Shore. Alex, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I was able to unmute myself. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my name is Alex Shore. I live in the neighborhood just west of Diridon. I've been in 3 homes over 7 years now here in the neighborhood. And now I actually live right next door to Diridon Station. I can hear the trains as we speak. So wanted to share a little bit about that. But this process is not about capturing my perspective. As a white guy who's solidly middle class, voices like mine and perhaps some of the folks on here tonight are pretty well represented in the process. So I thank Dave for inviting ideas from all of you tonight on reaching unheard, underrepresented stakeholders. And I want to thank the city for saying, let's partner with nonprofits to help engage these underrepresented audiences that we talked about tonight. Of the 7 groups displayed earlier in the presentation tonight, we have a church, a community-based organization in the Mayfair neighborhood, one focused on serving Latino businesses, another the African-American community, and a music-focused group. And as the executive director of Catalyze SV, I can tell you we're also one of those 7 groups. I can say that while we're a broad-based organization, we're not diverse enough to capture the views of underrepresented orgs that the city of San Jose has been targeting. So we're designing workshops with other community-based organizations that are focused on 2 populations usually not part of the process: the Vietnamese community and the arts and creative community, which the survey results presented tonight show is an important focus for the respondents. So the goal is to create an avenue for engagement for those not part of this process right now. And we welcome the SAG's ideas on how to do engagement, especially during this COVID era. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. I believe we have Blair Beekman next. Blair, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the words from Sandy Perry. It was nice to hear tonight. With the MTC now involved, I hope the San Jose and Bay Area CHSR can become a process where good thought and different options can now be more open and shared. These different options can include the CHSR to Tracy with an SF BART line to Tracy and some interesting East Bay mass transit and public transit connections in between. This can also have less San Jose SF Peninsula housing displacement issues as well. In good practices, pre-COVID-19, I didn't quite hear Jackie's speech tonight, but the VTA and City of San Jose may be asking around what can be extremely low, very low, and mixed income housing again. And in the important issues of digital inclusion at this time in San Jose, based on a massive push of broadband and Vision Zero technology by the federal government in the days after COVID-19, it should be clear, good open public policies needs a better seat at the table in how to address the importance of digital inclusion, the ideas of equity, and to help bridge the digital divide in San Jose. It simply must be respected and talked about how minimal use practices can accomplish just about as much as the work of oversaturation and overdeployment of broadband in local neighborhoods at this time. I'm sorry if my words may be uncomfortable. I'm actually trying to build bridges. I'm ready to admit that I hope we are ready to admit that good open public policy can have a helpful, important part in the still very experimental ideas of digital inclusion and the ideas of positive long-term community health and sustainability. Please remember, it is good open guidelines, good legal precedents, and good public policies at the local level across the country at this time that is an important factor now to help open up many important positive democratic practices and the ideas of long-term sustainability. To conclude, I hope it is becoming clear the ideas of equity can offer a positive focus and many ideas of a good community future and a good roadmap, and the decisions can be made in the now COVID-19 city budget for the next 3 years. Finally, with the many good human rights and civil rights guidelines, practices, and ideals at the local level that can continually ask for the better
Blair,
thinking.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up. Sorry,
I got
we're out of
2 more
time.
sentences. 2 more sentences.
Okay.
Continually ask at the national and international level. We can ask groups like the UN and the WHO for their better practices as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you. Next, we have Jeremy Taylor. Jeremy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thanks. So make 2 points. I continue to hear a lot of people talk about how we are making things harder on low income people. Well, I live in Gardner. I live 50 feet from the tracks, less than half a mile from where Google will be. The people in my neighborhood are really not renters anymore, at least not the low income. These people have been here for a generation or two. We have 3 generations living in some houses, and the reality is they're selling their homes. They're making the decision to do it, and they're moving away, and we're having new homes built. So we shouldn't be thinking about poor higher rents affecting these people that live near all of Dearborn. I mean, these people are moving on their own accord already. The one thing I'd like to see done better is talking more about the building heights. Seems like we're considering going up an additional 200 feet, and it's really going to affect the skyline in my neighborhood. You know, poor us, but at the same time, it would be nice to hear more transparency on it and just tell us what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. So our final speaker is Jean Dresden, and you should now be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. My name is Jean Dresden. I'm with San Jose Parks Advocates, and so a few points tonight. The survey was very misleading to the community by focusing exclusively on the community center, and it did not include a discussion of parks and open space and the interface between city plans and goals and the potential downtown west plans that have been submitted. And we still do not have a clear understanding whether or not new residents will have adequate public space. We've learned from COVID that small parks are inadequate, and we need to have that in mind. The staff indicated that parks will be urban form, but we don't know what that means. Recently performed international studies of park use during COVID show that people have completely changed how they use parks, and this may change design. We are concerned that there seems to be duplicative efforts with the Gardner Community Center nearby that has wonderful facilities, but is not staffed and is not serving the nearby neighborhood. The DSAP neighborhood is the enrollment area for the elementary school that is adjacent to Gardner Community Center. So we think it's duplicative. And with Google's expressed offers of community space, the city should be exploring joint partnerships that may meet most of those needs. There are so many issues that are yet to be decided upon, and it does not seem there are substantive ways for dialogue on these issues. And we agree that there was not adequate outreach to diverse populations. The survey's use of broadband made that happen. We think that the formation of an ongoing working group is important, and they should have the charge of maintaining the vision of a livable community with open space, affordable housing, and community benefits that balance the change associated with high density. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, thank you all again for spending your evening with us, members of the public. I know that was a long wait. I just wanted to reiterate very quickly what the next steps are in the process in terms of a community engagement. We are hoping to meet with you all again in September, and we'll be in touch with that exact date. We are anticipating that it will be virtual again, given the state we're in, but we're hoping to be able to see you face to face, depending on how things change here moving forward. Other community engagement opportunities, as Tim mentioned earlier, we're hoping to hold virtual office hours, and as well as meetings with the community. So not just the SOG, but with the community. And we heard you all loud and clear that we want to be able to have more focused meetings with stakeholders and those impacted most in the surrounding communities. And that is definitely something that is planned as well as those recordings that Google will have posted to their website and meetings that they're planning to hold in September and October. So with that, I wanted to again thank you so much. It was a marathon of a meeting, but really important for us to be able to connect again here, even though virtually. We really appreciate your time. I'll turn it over to Kim if you have any concluding comments. Thank you again.
Yeah, I just really want to emphasize that one of the the reasons to have the SAG and the reason it was constructed as it was because each of you have access to important networks. And so if I'm going to follow up with some of you who spoke on this afternoon, but I just want you to know that the city staff is really committed to community engagement, like real community engagement, and we are willing to go any place, anywhere to listen. So if you have ideas about how you can help us engage with important communities who you feel are not being heard at this point and whose voices are critical, we really want to partner with you as SAG members on that. So just thanks everybody for a really, really good meeting and really active participation.
Thank you all. Have a great night. Bye.